Hello?
Hello, good afternoon. Could I speak to Mr. Hussain, please?
Yes, speaking.
Hello, Mr. Hussain. My name's Jake. I'm calling from the Legal Ombudsman.
Yeah, hi Jake. I was expecting your call.
Yeah, fantastic. Is it a possibility I could go through security with you first?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no problem. Can I take your email address?
Is it fatahbegum@gmail.com?
Yeah, that's what I've got. And can you confirm the first line of your address and postcode for me, please?
Yeah, 20 Primary Way, Bradford, BD2 4RT.
Brilliant. Could you just confirm for me the service provider?
Burke
Your
Niazi,
method of raising.
Burke Niazi Solicitors.
Thanks very much. Fantastic. So that's past security. Just to obviously let you know, our calls are recorded, as you're aware, and it's just to obviously go over the resolution letter which I sent out, email which I sent out to you on Friday last week. Have you had a chance to read through the letter?
Yes, I have. I have read them. Yes.
Okay. How would you like to go through the phone call? Would you like to go through each stage of the complaint, or is there anything that you'd like to raise to let me go through it? Just on obviously a previous conversation that you'd like to obviously talk about it rather than just send a letter and then that's it. So it's definitely how would you like to proceed with the call? Would you like to go through each complaint, or is there anything that you picked up from the letter that you would like to discuss?
Yes, I mean, it's your response is very brief to the points that are raised, and obviously I do require some clarity on this. But just before I
Yeah, of
continue,
course.
you have a policy of doing a security check, which we've just gone through now. I just wanted to know why do you need to do that when you're calling me up?
We do it because obviously, by any means, if somebody else was to pick up your phone, pick up your number, we need to always just make sure that the person that we're speaking to is aware, because somebody else could have picked up the phone. So for us to call you, we do always have to just make sure that the person that we're speaking to is the correct person in place.
I
We always
understand.
have to make sure.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, like, just for argument's sake, let's say if it was somebody else, it would be pointless. First of all, why would they be answering my phone number, my phone call? And secondly, you wouldn't have much of a conversation. It's not like top secret, is it? It's like I just think it's a futile exercise. I mean, if I'm ringing you up, that's fair enough. But obviously, these are your policies that you have in place. I just think it's not very it's not necessary because you're ringing me up. You know you're ringing me up. We've arranged an appointment, and can you understand the futility of it?
I can see your point of view. I mean, the other side of it is because basically, I can see what you're saying. You've called me, so why do I have to go to security? As I said, in any off chance, somebody could pick up your phone and answer it.
Well, okay, all right. It
And
seems that
if, for example, if we was a bank and then we phoned you up and then say, for example, can you grab that, or your phone has gone or gone missing, or somebody has picked up your phone by any case, and we spoke to them, and then we went through any of your details, and without
yes,
even verifying who we spoke to,
yes,
we're exposing. So to eliminate any case of us giving your information without obviously speaking to you to any other source, like obviously speaking about the case, speaking about the service complaint in this case, we would definitely have to, just on data protection, make sure that we're speaking to the individual. That's why we just go through 3 questions just to make sure it's correct, so then we can engage in it. Because the last thing we want to do is, on the off chance, to say if we was to phone you and somebody was to pick up and be like, is that Mr. Hussain? Yes, it is. Fine, I'll go through all your information, and then say that we was to speak to you again, and you'd be like, well, I didn't speak to you on the phone, I don't know who you spoke to. So
I see.
we
Okay.
always have to just endeavour just to make sure that it is the person we're speaking to. Even though we have got the number on there, like, obviously, we know that things can get stolen, some people can pick up the phone, it could be a house phone that you use. just to eliminate any chance.
Yes, I understand. Look, I understand. I understand what you're saying, and the example that you're giving me is a pertinent example where a bank rings you up. But can you understand that when you're dealing with finances, there's an incentivized reason for fraud to take place. For
Oh
example,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
of course.
but so the example that you're giving me, or like a bank, I can understand that for security purposes. But I think with regards to yourself as an ombudsman, I think it's an overkill. But that's obviously your decision. It's just an observation on my part. I think it's
Oh, of course.
yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that's all I'm just trying to say. Is I think it's an
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. So moving on from this, obviously, I contacted you. Obviously, the first thing I wanted to discuss with yourself, why was there a misunderstanding given our last call? Because I was expecting, your response within 10 days, and you responded by saying that you were looking to arrange something with me first. Can I just get some clarity on this? Like, where was the misunderstanding? My understanding was that last time we spoke, you were gonna write out to me within 10 days.
Yeah, so I was going to write a response out to you in 10 days on the back of a confirmation from when you confirmed the date to when I was going to obviously get in touch with you. And the misunderstanding was because I think you spoke about dyslexia, you spoke about letters being sent out. So from my misunderstanding, it was, right, let's set up a call because I've gone through your complaint, reviewed it. Let's set up a call so we can speak about it. Obviously, you mentioned it was a misunderstanding with you want it in writing before we discuss. So that's why obviously
Okay. Okay.
out and writing and sent to you.
Okay. But was there not like a deadline of 10 days?
But it was 10 days to get back to you with a response for a resolution. So it was to obviously contact you within 10 days to arrange a call or to give you a resolution, which was to arrange a call to give you a resolution. At the same time, obviously, upon the misunderstanding, getting it sent out in writing. So
Okay.
that's why I obviously proceeded to do it on the Friday.
Okay, all right. So could you tell me what date did we do? What date was that? Because obviously, like I said, I had to send you an email stating the fact that am I not expecting a resolution by
So
today?
you sent me that. You sent me the email, didn't you?
Yes.
From that. So you want to know from the date of when we last spoke.
So when we last spoke, what was the agreement that you would respond within 10 days? What date did we last speak, and what date did we agree to that the response?
Let me have a look. Okay, so from the email, let me get the exact date because I just want to make sure that the
Yep.
dates are aligned. And that was on the 20th. I sent an email out to you to advise if you're happy with the above. I will aim to contact you within 10 days with my resolution. You should sure that's fine on the 20th. And you contacted me on the 4th of July, obviously asking, saying that the 10 days are over, and then I responded back to you to arrange time and a date to speak to you with a resolution.
Yeah. So can I ask why just to start with? I mean, obviously, I had to send. We agreed on the 20th, and I was generous enough to say the weekends is 10 working days. I take it or not? Is it 10 days or 10 working days?
10 working days, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I contacted you on the 4th. Why had you not provided me with the resolution on the 4th.
I'll contact you on the 4th to arrange a call to go through a resolution for you.
Yeah, I understand, but I had to contact you first, okay? And you responded by then stating the fact that, oh, I'm gonna arrange to call you. So it just, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. It just seems to me that this was an afterthought, and you were biding for some time because you've then created a misunderstanding, saying that, oh, I was supposed to call you, when that was not the situation that we left on the 20th of June. My understanding was that you were going to write out to me, and then I've obviously waited 10 days. I've not received anything. And then when I've contacted you, you've said, oh, my understanding is that I'm going to arrange a call now. And then I said, no, I want you to write out to me. And then you said, I'm going to write out to you by the 6th. And then I had to send another email to yourself, as quite late on. And then you provided me with information on the 6th. It just seems to me.
Okay, I can get what you're saying. Basically, obviously, when we spoke on the 20th, 10 working days from the 20th would have been if we went from the 20th or when we sent it off, would have been the 5th. You sent the email on the 4th, asking this is the 10 working days. I sent to advise out to you saying, yeah, by all means, I've gone through the evidence. As I said from a letter, aim to get a response, a resolution to you within 10 days. Obviously, I've got back to you to advise, right, because my misunderstanding, I haven't created a misunderstanding, but I've literally had a misunderstanding. That's why I said, right, I'll be more than happy to write out a response for you.
But
if I was to review all the evidence that you gave me, to be able to review it in that many of days, I mean, from the time that you sent an email to me replying back, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I had to use the 10 days to obviously review to come to a response, a resolution. And with that, obviously, I had a misunderstanding to make an arrangement to get a call arranged with you. But by all means, I do apologise about that if there was a misunderstanding. I did obviously get the letter to you on Friday, as I said, at close of play.
Yes, and when you say close of play, if you look at my email on the 6th, when was that email sent to you on the 6th?
So your email, so the time of your email?
Yes.
On the 6th?
Yep.
I'll get your time of your email for you. The time of your email on the 6th. Was at, from what I can see here, it was 17 minutes past 7.
In the evening?
That was in the evening. 70, we've got it down here, 1917, as it was
yes.
on our system.
Okay, so...
Sorry, bear with me. One moment.
Yeah, sure.
Just have a look. Good afternoon, dear. I'm in the system on here. 17th and 19th. Let me look on our Outlook as well to measure the date and time. Seven 17, and I replied at 8:27.
Okay, all right. So can you understand that from my perspective, you advised me on the 4th that you're going to be replying by the 6th because there's been a misunderstanding. And you said end of play. Now my understanding of end of play would be around about 5:30. All right. So that's hence why I've waited until like 7 o'clock. Saying that, well, obviously this time's now like end of play basically. It's not no. And then you've replied to me. The time that you replied was it 8 something?
8:27.
Yeah, 8:27. So it's like, how can there be that the understanding that end of play is at 8:27? I mean, that's not a business hour, is it?
See, because we all work on flexi hours within the organisation. I do apologise about the time getting that to you, but I wanted to make sure that I was sending it before the end of my shift.
Yes, and when does your shift end?
My shift can run from 7 up until 9 o'clock.
Oh, okay, all right. Because can you understand?
Work on
Yeah, no, no.
I can understand, and from what you've explained, obviously, with regards to you would want to know, you would want to have known what exact time I'd be sending it out.
No, no.
I was doing interviews.
Yes, no. Look, Jake. I mean, the reality is that and I think this is the same issue that I've had with Sean Jeffries, is that I have a right to be informed, don't I? There shouldn't be an aspect of me having a misunderstanding, because that's the whole point of having conversations, especially when we're talking over the telephone. So so initially, you've explained to me I'm going to write to you within 10 days. That's not taken place. There was a misunderstanding where you're now telling me that, it was, I thought within 10 days I'm going to arrange a time. And that, this seems circumspect to me. But irrespective, I've clarified the situation regarding the 10 days on the 4th and said, look, no, actually, I want something written down. If it was available, if you're taking the 10 days and it was available, then you could have sent it me to the straight away. But you said, no, I'm going to take a couple of extra days and until the 6th. And I said, okay, well, that's fair enough. And then obviously it's, you've not responded within the business hours. I've then sent you an email on the around about 7 o'clock, and then you've responded by 8 o'clock. And the reason I have a slight issue with this is that what you've responded with effectively it's like a whitewashing exercise, and it could have been drafted within an hour. So I'm just trying to ask you the question that, since you got since you sent out to me this letter on the 6th, can you just talk me through the investigation process? How did you utilize the first 10 days?
Yeah, how would you like to go through it?
So, I mean,
what would you like me to,
all right, what?
the process?
Okay, so what I would like you to
How would you like me to break it down?
So what I would like to do is that obviously because of these irregularities, then obviously I'm putting you on the spot here and saying, well, can you break it down to me, because there is a perspective, an objective perspective, that it seems that you've not really done anything except after my prompting, and then when I prompted you quickly put something together and sent it to me haphazardly. That's the position I am in. So this is one of the reasons I'm asking you can you break it down to me? So from the 20th of June, can I just ask that, do you keep a diary or a log of what work you're doing, or is it all done informally?
No. So for example, so from the start, I need to put in a date in my diary for when I can review, because there's a number of calls which you've asked me to review.
Yes.
The calls being, some being an hour, some being over an hour. I can go over the specific times of how long the calls are. So for me to be able to measure and listen to those calls within an hour, to come up with a rationale would be impossible. I wouldn't be able to listen to your full calls that you sent. Mind you, there was 2 calls made on a specific date between this call. So for me, it's the first, review the active timeline from the advisor. So from the date of when you've mentioned when the dissatisfaction of your complaint started, to then find out when the calls were, to then to go over the advice from the service complaints, which we and you have confirmed. That's what I sent out for you. So I need to go through those from each stage.
Okay.
So from each stage, is that a phone call? Is that evidence that has been sent out? So I need to go through from the time that you've sent, things that haven't been done, to match it up with the system.
Okay.
Kind of like see, has the investigator done what the complainant has advised, as in, that haven't done this or that haven't done that. I need to go through each file to see. Remember, I don't know about the case individually. I have to go from the process that an investigator has taken. From there, I then need to see, have they followed guidance? So I can't just come up with, right, okay, that's the resolution, because through my obviously review of the case, it's going to be also checked as well to make sure, well, have they checked to see if this investigator has followed guidelines? Obviously, if they haven't followed it, the investigator, and I have said they have, and then it gets escalated, they will review what I've seen to then go, well, you haven't reviewed this, you obviously haven't listened to the call, they haven't followed procedure, well, how have you come to this resolution? So I need to make sure that all the stuff that I've come up to is crossed and dotted correctly, just to make sure that they haven't followed the procedure. I can back that up from my findings. And if we come into a case where, from this point, you still want to escalate it, my work will be obviously reviewed as well. So I need to make sure that from my resolution, I've checked things, made sure that the calls I've listened to, the case that I've reviewed, to make sure that my resolution is how it is. So from the first point of call, from what you said, what would be my first point of action? Well, first point of action would be to piece out time to allow me to be able to then go, right, what are the state of claim, where the complaint, what are the complaint heads that the customer, what the complainant has advised to me. And then from each stage of the complaint head, have a look, engage, has the investigator followed the process.
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here. Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah. So from that point on, I would listen to the call, review the calls, listen to find the evidence. If there's any evidence involved, like calls are made or stating that a call was made at this, or a time of call was supposed to be dated at this time and it wasn't done. So just to review over the case.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would else like me to add?
Well, actually, you've not. What you've done here, I've explained to you that, because of some irregularities, there's two irregularities that have occurred. First of all, for example, when we last spoke on the 20th, if there was no misunderstanding and if you had given me a response by the 4th of July, we would not be having this discussion, because obviously,
of course.
yeah. Yes. No, that's.
You're in your right.
Yes.
To complain about
Yeah.
that.
So one of the reasons is because there's been two issues here, and first of all, I did not receive a response by the 4th, and then secondly, there was another further misunderstanding where end of business play meant 8 o'clock, not 5:30 as I anticipated. So I basically asked you to explain this to myself. You've spent some time now, and what you've done is you're basically describing to me what should have happened. And that's not what I asked you. What I want from you, rather than telling me what should have happened, all right, what the guidelines are, what you're supposed to be doing, I would like you to talk to me through how you have created this document on the 6th, from the 20th, from our last conversation.
Do you want me to go through the service complaints and tell you how I've come to each part, or do you want me to go through how we investigate a service complaint?
No, I don't. You've already explained to me how you do it. I would like to see how you have done it, and and obviously you don't need to go into the full details, because basically I'm making the claim now that you've not what you're supposed to be doing, you've not done that, and it's required my prompting, and therefore you've just haphazardly put something together. So if you can explain to me that, all right, look, Mr. Hussain, we last spoke on the 20th, right? On the 21st I did this, on the 22nd I did this, on the 23rd.
You want what days I've done what?
Yeah, so and you can say on a couple of days I was off on holiday, so I didn't do something that on these particular days, and this is how I've gone about investigating your particular complaints. So for example,
do you want the time scales of when I was working on your complaint?
Yes.
Do you want the dates of when I was working on the complaint?
Yes.
Do you want the time?
Yes.
I've worked on the complaint and the dates.
Yes, okay. I want to break that.
Do you want it per complaint head, or do you want, because some complaint heads cross over because of the dates. You've got like May the 11th.
Yes.
So I would have investigated one part of that. So how do you want me to go about breaking this down for you?
Jake, if you can just basically, obviously the only reason we're doing this exercise now is because of the irregularities.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So if you can just.
Irregularities, that's fine.
Yes. So
if
you.
I'm just asking how would you
Yes.
want me to break it
If
down,
you can just.
I want to make sure.
Yes.
That
Okay.
I'm giving you
Yes.
the information that you want, so that we can
Yes.
we can go on to your complaint
Okay.
resolution.
Okay.
Because as I said, I've only got the hour, and the last thing I would want to do is not get to your complaint
Okay.
resolution.
So how
if
how I
you
would
can
like you to
tell me
proceed?
exactly how you would like me to
Okay.
break it down
I
for you.
would basically I would just like you to briefly summarize from the 20th to the 6th. What briefly? You don't need to go into details. Just basically talk me through what work you've done in order to get this document created on the 6th of July. If you can just talk me through what you've actually done.
What I've actually done. So from what I've actually done from the 20th of July, from when we spoke, not the 20th of July, it's the 20th of June.
Yes.
Obviously, got the confirmation from yourself. I then, obviously, given the 10 days, I went from the 29th, which was a Thursday, because I don't work Fridays,
Okay.
where I started to look at the first amount of calls, which was on the 11th of May,
Okay.
2024. So for my first point of action was to listen to the telephone conversation. I was going to break this up into small sections because I understand there's a number of telephone calls. The first being the 11th of May, which went on to our call recording process, which then was to listen to the call. For my reasonable adjustments, I would need to listen to a call twice, just to make sure that I'm
Yes.
not missing on anything and making notes. I do occur to make notes in my notebook first of all, so
Okay.
I write those down. So coming the 29th of June, I made notes of calls being the 14th of the 4th, 2023, and the 11th of the 5th, 2023.
Can I just stop you? Can I just stop you there, Jake? You said that we last conversed on the 20th, and then you started to review the calls on the 29th. Is that correct?
So on the call on the 29th.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So between the 20th and the 29th, that you didn't work on this case.
I didn't, because I had other.
Yes. No, that's fair enough.
that I had to do.
Okay, all right. So you basically started working on this case on the 29th. Okay, all right. And you mentioned that on the 29th you've had a couple of calls to review. Okay, so if you continue there. Sorry to interrupt. Yes.
Yeah, so I've had calls to review from there and also just going over the case. So going from the 29th, I was going through interviews through that date as well. So halfway through the case had already been processed. Through Monday the 3rd, I had another hour on it, around 12 o'clock, just working on the case, and also touched about 45 minutes on it from 8 o'clock up until 9 on 19th. Just reviewing the call in June as well.
So
and then obviously you got in touch with us on the 4th.
Yep.
Advising you where my resolution had been complete. I've made my notes ready to go into a conversation with you because I hadn't written it out because from my understanding it was to speak to you about it first of all and then to get it out in writing. Obviously the misunderstanding happened and I wanted to make sure I was getting it in writing. I had interviews all from the 5th. And then obviously I had interviews on the 6th, but I wanted to make sure that it was getting out within the break time of my interviews that I was having. So come on the 6th of Thursday, I was drafting out your letter to get sent out for you, just to making sure all components were correct, because obviously I had to change from having a conversation from you to drafting a letter first of all.
Okay, so let me just summarize this. So we last spoke on the 20th. You were not in a position to start this case until the 29th. You did review the calls on the 29th. You were then in a position to work, I believe, an hour on the 3rd or on Monday the 3rd. And then you did a bit more work on the 6th. Is that correct?
I'll read your resolution email out on the 6th.
Yes, I know, but I'm just trying to understand how much, like, basically I'm just trying to understand, because what you
didn't have any work to do on the 6th, or I basically had just to do a review on the 4th really, but no work or change to what my decision was going to be.
Yes, but prior, so you had, when was the like you had drafted all the responses, written them up?
Drafted responses. I basically wrote my notes down on my piece of paper to speak to you, because I was gonna have a conversation with you first of all, and then I was going to, because what I need to do for my reasonable adjustments is write things down, then I draft out a letter.
Okay, so when did you?
My investigation was completed by the 4th. There was no, I mean, there was just some overview.
Yes.
There was no change to the decision.
So your investigation effectively commenced on the 29th, on that particular day, and then a bit more work on the 3rd.
Well, to review your case, to listen to your call started on the 29th.
Yeah.
To be looking through your case was something that I could do spontaneously from the 20th as well. But if you want to, as you said, you wanted to go into detail from how many hours, and for me, if I was to be fair, from the 29th is when I started listening to the calls to get the bulk idea.
Yes. Okay. All right. That's fair enough. Okay. All right. So yes, thank you for explaining that brief summary. I mean,
Is there anything else that you want to know regarding the timescales at all?
You've been very clear. You've explained to me that you really didn't do any work on this investigation until the 29th. Okay. On the 29th, you would have started to review the calls, and you've explained to me that because you wanted to make sure you've done handwritten notes, and the fact that you had to review them several times. And mind you, these calls were very lengthy, weren't they? They were not like short calls. They were like at least an hour long calls. So you spent the best.
Do you want the timings of the call?
Pardon?
How long the calls were?
I know how long the calls were, yes. But
okay.
no, I know how long the calls were. All I'm trying to determine is how much time did you spend reviewing the calls?
Time reviewing the call. I mean, I'm trying to think how many times I went over the calls, because obviously the calls are lengthy, given
Yes.
given the detail in those. I would say probably. Oh God, let me just have a look at the diary. So up to 4. I'll say probably up to. I don't want to be confirming it because I don't know the exact timing. I'd say around over 4 hours just listening to
Yeah.
calls, because just to get over there. And I do apologise. Obviously, there was one part of the call, especially from the confusion part with the feedback and the comments back and the service complaints. I had to make sure to go over that part quite a few times, because the calls kind of accelerated with the speed, and if I'm making notes, I need to get both sides of the section. So I do apologise if I can listen to it a number of times.
No.
As you can imagine, given the last time
Jake,
we spoke,
Jake,
I want to make sure that I'm doing it.
Jake, that's not a point to apologise about. You can just say I'm being very thorough. You've gone over them several times.
Yeah.
So I'm not.
I just want to make sure that you've got an understanding of that.
Well, my understanding is that the bulk of the work that you started the investigation on the 29th by reviewing the calls. You spent 4 hours. That's an extensive amount of time, if you can imagine, reviewing calls, making notes around. So that would have taken the best part of that day. So can you tell me what you did on the 3rd?
On the 3rd?
Monday the 3rd.
Yes, so Monday the 3rd, that was, which call was I reviewing? It was, let me get the call calendar up, I'll be able to tell you. Bear with me, I'm just entering into the platform that we use for calls.
Yeah, sure.
Right. I just want to give you the date of the call I reviewed as well. So this was for call of the 6th of June, which was 113.52 minutes. So we're reviewing that call as well as a call being on the 4th of May as well, missed from the first set of calls. So it was around, I'd say about another around 3 hours on the call listening, if I was to be brutally honest, just over giving the call time.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that, Jake, that you spent the best part on the 29th reviewing the calls, spent 4 hours on it, and then on Monday the 3rd of July, there was more calls to review, so you spent the best part of that day reviewing the calls as well. So by Monday the 3rd of July, you had completed reviewing all the calls, yes?
I completed the review of looking through the calls. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 calls to review over the span from the 11th of May. I did actually listen to a call on the 4th of May as well, just to get some review back, just to check over on something. And then there was a call made on the 14th of April as well, but again, I just kind of briefed over that because I just wanted to make sure from further calls closer to the date.
Okay, all right. So by the 3rd, you've completed reviewing all the calls that you need to review, and then can I ask, when did you review the case file?
The case file was, so the case files that we have on our CRM would be the active timeline. So for me to review the case files, I would do that through the call. So a call review would be from listening to the call and looking at the case file. So there would be no point in me just listening to a call. Because I would need to see, okay, what actions were taken? What actions were said to be taken? Were they done? If they were done,
I understand.
were they done by?
Okay.
You see what I mean? So I wouldn't have to review the case while I'm listening to the call at the same time.
Okay.
Because you have to check when things are being measured up.
I see.
To check for CPR.
I understand. So so that was on the 3rd, and by the 4th, your investigation had been concluded with.
Investigation, yeah, it was basically to check over, just to make sure things were entitled to have a phone to obviously arrange a phone call with yourself to go through it.
Yes, but you had written up everything?
I had written my notes on there to discuss with you over the phone, to then put it into an email for final response to you as my resolution.
Okay.
But what I wanted to do was to speak to you first, to speak with what my findings were, to then obviously see what your comments were on that, and then to kind of go where were we with the resolution.
Okay.
Obviously, from my understanding, it was a resolution which was to be sent out via email. But what I wanted to do was obviously speak to you with regards to my resolution, see what your comments were, then to kind of like see, was there anything that I can resolve from this point of view, being at stage 0, or did it need to be escalated to a stage 1? From there on, sending you confirmation of this is what my resolution was, this is what we discussed, this is what your response back is, this is what the next steps are.
Okay.
But obviously, from my understanding, it was something to be sent out and to you in writing, which that's why you see what the next steps are. I wanted to discuss with you before even sending out the next steps, because I didn't know what the stages of the complaint would be after my resolution. Would it be going up, escalate to a stage 1, or would it be resolved at stage 0 from the call discussion and the confirmation centre?
Okay, all right. So can I just ask, what work did you do on the what work was carried out on the 4th?
What work was carried out on the 4th?
Yes.
So the carried out on the 4th would be just to review the findings that I had, and then to obviously send you an email to go, right, is this time suitable or this date suitable for yourself?
Okay. Thank you very much, Jake. You've clarified the situation. I have a better understanding of what's happened now. I still believe the fact that the investigation process has been hampered because of your other commitments, and there's not been enough time allocated to this. But that's my own personal opinion. I'd like to move on from this now. I'd just like to move on from this because I'm just conscious of the time. I want to move on to what. So, can you just talk me through the points that I've raised with you, and what your responses are. And I would like to start. I mean, obviously, I made quite a few complaints, but I think the primary one I would like to start explaining to me about is the one where I think all the other ones are auxiliary points, but the main issue for me personally is the preemptive decision by your colleague, and obviously that was a complaint that I had. And if you can just start by talking me through this complaint, because my understanding was that this complaint was sorry, yeah, my understanding was that is the core. The serious aspect of it, because I'm just conscious of the time and we may not get enough time today to go through everything, but the one complaint, the serious complaint, was this, that your colleague, Miss Jeffries, had preemptively made the decision to end the investigation at a time when no evidence had been presented. As you can see, that I proceeded to present her with the evidence, but her decision was already made regarding discontinuing, because she had not had access to the evidence, neither from myself, neither from the other party. So can you just reiterate what that complaint was about, and how that was investigated, and how your findings were?
So that would be complaint head. The investigation's decision to end the case was premature when no evidence was provided.
Yes.
Yeah. So from that part of the complaint head, I can't give an opinion on that, because it's about the case itself. So based on the evidence given during that time and the process that the investigator went through, I can't question that, because it has gone to a dismissal where an ombudsman will now be looking at the fact that an investigator has brought a case to be dismissed.
Okay.
And it will go to an ombudsman who will be able to give a qualified reason as to, do they A, accept the dismissal? If they do, then it's been cleared from the ombudsman that they dismissed it, or if they don't accept it, the case continues. But I can't have an opinion based on the fact that an investigator, given the fact of what their investigation has been on, or what they've investigated, has come to the conclusion based on their investigation that it needs to be prematurely dismissed, it needs to be dismissed. Whether it's prematurely due to the fact of what you've mentioned, I can't shadow on the fact and give an opinion, because that will change the case itself. If I was then to go, well, I don't see why they can give it that, prematurely dismiss the case based on this evidence, I'm going into the detail of the case, and I can't go into the detail of the case because I have not investigated the case from start to finish. That's why if these get escalated to an ombudsman to then give their opinion onto, right, is this case to be dismissed due to what the investigator believes, and as you mentioned, to your argument, prematurely. If it is prematurely, when being that it's been passed to an ombudsman, they will be able to give a better judgment on the case to go, right, this case is prematurely being dismissed. There's no fact for it to be dismissed based on their findings. Because that has been escalated to an ombudsman, and they're in their position to be able to give that decision, I can't comment on that part of that complaint, unfortunately.
Okay, so remember, I'm not. What you've explained to me is correct. But remember, you knew this. Okay, and my argument is, obviously I'm criticizing the way that you've investigated this complaint with yourself. So, for example, if we spent a lot of time on the telephone call, I explained this to you. I explained this to you that, look, this is what my issues are. Now, I do not know what the criteria is, because on the 20th, if you had said to me, Mr. Hussain, look, I accept all the other things, but can you understand that my role as the manager is to see, criticize criticize Sean Jeffries on her handling of the situation. What you're describing to me would be outside of my scope. So when I've presented to you the terms of reference, in fact, terms of reference with regards to what needs to be investigated, you've not come back to me and said you've agreed with me that those are going to be investigated. So can you understand why I would? My understanding is this: that on the 20th, we've agreed terms of reference of what's the scope of your investigation. You knew at that stage on the 20th whether this would fall in your scope, or you should have known whether this would fall in your scope of investigation or not fall within the scope of your investigation. So on the 20th, so I believe that, my understanding was that this was going to be investigated, and now it seems that at the end of your investigation period, you think, nah, actually, I can't investigate this. So my question to you is that if you knew, why did you have to why did you accept this to take it on board on the 20th? Now you're telling me that this is outside of your scope. Why did you not know on the 20th what your limitations are, or what you can investigate and what you cannot investigate? What you had told me on the 20th that this aspect was going to be investigated, and now as an outcome of the investigation. Yeah, sorry, go on.
It's still sorry. I'll talk over you then. Carry on, sir.
So yeah, I would just like an explanation, because if this is not something that you could have investigated, because you're now telling me you can't investigate this, you should have known about this fact, when we were agreeing terms of reference, and if you had explained to me, Mr. Hussain, I can't investigate this, I would have been satisfied. I said, okay, that's outside of his scope. But can you understand? Once again, it's my expectations. You see, I had an expectation you're gonna give me a written response by the 10th of July. I didn't receive that. I had an expectation that you were gonna give me a response by the end of play on the 6th of July, which was I would say 5:30. I waited until 7 o'clock. I didn't get that. Once again, I had an expectation that this was going to be investigated, and now you're telling me that that's not going to be investigated. So it's my issue here, quite clearly and succinctly, is that why are you giving me expectations which are then letting me down? Because my expectation was that you were going to investigate this. So can you help me understand why expectation was created in my mind, which is now obviously you're telling me that you can't investigate?
Well, so I can explain it to you. So from the parts of the other complaint heads that you gave me, that part of the complaint head, if, for example, any other areas of what we was discussing, if there was anything from not remaining impartial during the investigation, reasonable adjustments not being investigated, extra time given to the service provider, these all elements that came up, and those were not in line with guidance. The investigator had not proceeded with that. That part of the complaint, I would obviously see, well, considering all elements have not been met, obviously you wouldn't have been able to come to a dismissal, because they hadn't followed previous guidelines to be able to get to sending off to Ombudsman. For me, what I had to do was just to make sure, okay, that area, if everything else is in sync, given guidelines, they follow the procedures, they follow the process, that part, so for an investigator to come to a decision, have they followed guidelines to come to a decision? From what I can see, they followed all the guidelines and process to be able to make a decision on that case. You've advised it was premature. So for me, I had to look and go, right, from the complaint, can I see if they followed the process? I can see that they followed the process. That's why on this matter regarding the case itself, I can't provide any feedback, as this has been escalated to an ombudsman. If it hadn't been escalated to an ombudsman and they just went to dismiss it, then I would be saying that is wrong. They can't be dismissing it because they haven't followed the process. From what I can see, the investigator has followed the process. I can't comment on the reason why. I can't comment on the decision for it to go through dismissal. But what I can say, as I said in my writing, this has now been escalated to an ombudsman who will be given a decision on the case. And if they feel that it is premature, they will raise the matter and look for the case investigation to continue. But for that to get to that point, an investigator will need to follow the set guidelines before they can even manage to send it out for dismissal. A dismissal process isn't a case of where an investigator just sends dismissal and then the case gets dismissed. had to be escalated to an ombudsman before dismissal is even granted. Remember, it's not been approved yet. The dismissal has been, the investigator feels that a dismissal should be put in the case. Whether that gets done is for the ombudsman to decide. Now, how did the investigator get to that process? Have they followed everything? From what I can see from the complaint heads, they have followed the process. That's why I can't comment on the case itself, but that's why it's been escalated to an ombudsman.
You know, the fact that it's been escalated an ombudsman is outside of the scope of what I'm discussing with you, because obviously that decision has already been made. I understand this. I understand the ramifications of this. I'm not focusing in on the fact that it's been escalated to an ombudsman for the decision. What I was focusing in on is this, that I believe, and I raised this as a complaint to yourself, that the investigator was premature in making that decision, all right, because the evidence has not been presented to her. Now, what I've done then is obviously that's what my opinion is, yes, irrespective of what the fact that it has been raised. I'm not questioning that. What I'm saying is that on the surface of it, it seems very premature for her. She's not even in a position to make that decision to escalate it to the ombudsman, because she's not even reviewed the evidence. Now, obviously that is the core, the major complaint with yourself is that, look, how can she make this decision and remain impartial when she's not even reviewed the evidence, and she just said that there's no reasonable prospect of it succeeding. So I raised that complaint with yourself. Now, the complaint heading is investigators' decision to end the case was premature when no evidence was provided. That's what you had written out to me. All right, you had accepted that was going to be something that was going to be investigated. Now, the investigators' decision to end the case was premature. That you could have at that stage. What you're telling me now is that is their prerogative. But then previously you've told me that you're going to investigate this, and so you've already accepted this. Then that's the question, irrespective of whether it's been escalated.
So we're investigating whether or not an investigator has followed a
yes
procedure
all right
to that point.
Okay,
they can't
so
just say
yes,
that a case can be dismissed.
That's
they have to why is the case, why in their view has the case been dismissed?
Yes.
What guidelines have they took to come up with that conclusion to send it off?
Okay. So that's what I asked. So that's why I asked you to investigate. Okay. So can you tell me, like, what can you tell me what, because obviously like you said. Yeah. So can you explain to me what guidelines would she have followed? Because I'm just an outside objective observer here of how the ombudsman is working. There can be no guidelines. Like, for example, she asked for evidence. All right. She had not reviewed the evidence. Now, can you understand, reasonably speaking, if at that stage she had reviewed the evidence, and then that would have been the guideline. So that's exactly what I asked you to investigate. How has she followed those guidelines? You're telling me that she's followed those guidelines. To explain to me which guidelines has she followed? Because obviously, can you understand, all guidelines or anything has to be reasonable or practical in order for it to be sensible. This is nonsensical, where on the one hand you're telling me that the investigator cannot just basically look to dismiss the case. Well, obviously that's what I'm saying, that she's done that. She's then looked to justify it, but she can't justify it because, for example, if she had received review, and as you can appreciate, mine is not the only case, so the guidelines have to be globally applicable. Now, understandably, if, for example, there was no evidence, or if she had received the evidence that was not supporting this, or any guidelines would say, all right, well, at this stage you need to get the evidence and then make that decision. I just want to understand, under what basis has Miss John Jeffries been in a position to make the decision that this case has no reasonable prospect of succeeding when she has not been in a position to review the evidence? So can you justify to me, or rather than saying that her decision to go to the ombudsman, that's his decision regarding what she's recommended to end the investigation. What I asked you to investigate, what guidelines were followed by her in order to establish that this case has no reasonable prospects of succeeding. succeeding. Now, that may be her decision, but it just beggars belief that she could be in a position to make that decision when she's not reviewed the evidence. Hence, my terminology of prematurely ended the investigation. Because surely the guidelines would say, look, because she has the authority, she's in the position to request evidence. Okay, you couldn't.
That would be in our scheme rules.
Yes.
So we'd be looking at our scheme rules at 5.7 or 5.4. I need to get the scheme rules.
Yes, and
you've got a copy of the scheme.
Yes, I have. Yes, and it just basically says there's no reasonable prospects of succeeding. So my question was that how can any, not just her, how can anybody be in a position to evaluate the complaint, which was my complaint originally, before actually evaluating the evidence? So I don't believe she's followed guidelines there, because this is why I've said it's just premature of her, because the reality.
Are you saying that you don't believe she's followed the guidelines, or are you saying that you don't believe that she's been able to come up with that and satisfy what you're saying? You believe that she hasn't satisfied and used enough evidence to come up with that conclusion. So are you saying it on your opinion, or are you saying that she hasn't met guidelines? Because what I'm saying is, from what I can see, the guidelines have been used to be able to escalate to an ombudsman for case of dismissal. Now, I can't give a view as to whether the dismissal is
let's not talk about that.
Is right or not, because then that would be me
talking
about whether she's not all the case.
No, we don't
say that she's followed the.
No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the guidelines. The guidelines, particularly in this case, were that there's no reasonable prospect of success. I believe that was the guidelines.
Yeah.
For this particular complaint.
Okay.
And remember, mind you, that there was not just one complaint. If that was one complaint, and that would be fair enough, I had about 20 complaints. All of them could not fall under the same umbrella term, all right, that there's no reasonable prospect of succeeding. It just seems that I'm not even sure which particular of the 20 complaints she's stating is the no reasonable prospect of succeeding. Can you understand what's effectively happened? I've put 20 different complaints in regarding this agency. Now, if she, for example, have said, well, complaints 3, 4, and 5, I cannot see any evidence for that or reasonable prospects of succeeding, I'm going to dismiss those. And, basically she's used what. It basically seems that you've used, a means to dismiss this case and try to retrospectively justify it. So she stated that, there's no reasonable prospect of succeeding. So then I've said, well, you've shot yourself in the foot there, because you've said that prematurely. You cannot justify at this stage that the case has no reasonable prospect of succeeding, because not only you, but nobody in your position at this juncture in time would be in a position to make that decision. And the reason that nobody would be able to make that decision is because you've not received evidence. Can you understand that her decision, all right, is based on evidence, isn't it? So when she's using the scheme rule, it seems that she's used the scheme rules retrospectively in order to justify her decision, doing the cart, putting the cart before the horse. It's not been led by the investigation. So, for example, I've put a complaint in, she's reviewed the complaint, she's accepted the complaint, she's then said, look, I need evidence for this. Evidence has been given by both parties, my evidence, her evidence, the other party's evidence, the investigator says, well, based on the evidence that I have before me, there is no reasonable prospect of this one particular complaint being successful, that therefore I'm going to ask the ombudsman to dismiss this one. I understand that. That is how any reasonable person would approach this. However, that's not what's happened. I've spent a considerable amount of time explaining the complaint to her. She's accepted it. She's made an evidence request. Soon as the evidence request has come in, I've tried to present her with evidence. She said, no, I can't accept that evidence. And I'm now making the decision that all of your 20 complaints have no reasonable prospect of succeeding. So it seems very clear to me that, that was premature of her, because if she had no intention of complying, if you the ombudsman had no real intentions of doing, of basically investigating my complaints, you should have at least waited until the evidence was in. So this is what I'm asking you. I've looked at the scheme myself, and it is inconceivable that At that stage, anybody can make that decision. So I don't care about the decision that she's already made. I've asked you to look into and explain to me how anybody in that position can make that decision without having any evidence. Because the other party has not given any evidence. My evidence is saying that there is it's not acceptable. So she's had access to zero evidence. All she's got access to is my complaint alone, which she has initially accepted, and then subsequently proceeded to say, no, I'm going to tell the ombudsman this case has no prospect of succeeding. So that's what I would like. I would like an answer to, rather than the justification of the ombudsman's decision. I just need to know that. On the one hand, you're saying that you're impartial. On the one hand, you're saying you don't have an invested interest in anything, and then all of a sudden you prematurely made this decision without any access to any evidence. Now, can you confirm? It is correct, isn't it, that when Sean Jeffries made this decision, she was not privy to any evidence. So I would like to speak. I would like you to help me understand your procedures and policies, how an investigator can make a decision to end an investigation, all right, without any evidence there. Whether that's her, and your argument is that's her decision. But her decision itself is flawed in the sense that it's not followed any procedure, because you should have asked for evidence. Go ahead. Yeah. I'm just slightly aghast at trying to explain this to yourself, that this was the core argument or the main complaint which you've accepted. I've waited until now. Obviously, we're on the 11th of July. I still don't have a clear understanding. Because once again, what we're talking about here is what you're telling me, what my understanding is, what my expectations are, and then those expectations are completely being, the rug pulled under me. Help me understand, after looking at this. I mean, obviously you're a manager, you are a more senior position than Miss Sean Jeffries. How can any investigator make a decision to end an investigation without access to evidence?
So basically, and this is without me getting into the insides of the case.
Yes.
Because I can't give an opinion on the case.
Yes.
But if an investigator feels that under no reasonable they can come up with a conclusion or a resolution up to what you want, they can go from to dismiss the case. Given the scope call that they've had from you, speaking to you regarding what you want and what can be courted. From that point, the investigator has looked at, based on what evidence is given, how the evidence is given, what evidence can be provided, and it's come up with a conclusion that it's up for potential dismissal. That's from what I can read from the review. They follow the steps from getting advice to make sure that each time a dismissal's put, it has to be overviewed. It needs to be advice given to kind of find out if it is in the correct place and if it's in the correct process. From what I can see, the investigator has gone through the correct process to be able to then, from potentially, even if no evidence has been given, from the information that they've received, whether it's evidence being put in one certain point of view or discussed over or displayed or presented in either way, if it's unable to be presented and they're not unable to accept it and no other evidence is being given, they can still come to a process where this case may be up for dismissal. This is why it gets escalated to an ombudsman. An ombudsman will then have a look to go, well, how have they come up to this process? Why do you feel because they can talk to the investigator about the case and they can give the brief about the case, and because they will be investigating it themselves. So when an investigator investigates the case, because it's been put over for dismissal, they will go through it to see if they come up with a conclusion that this should be dismissed. From their conclusion, if they feel, well, there's no reason why this should be dismissed, they will recheck the dismissal challenge.
No. Look, I mean,
dismissed yet.
I know. Yes, I understand this. That's not the focus of what I understand that aspect. What I'm trying to focus in is on the conduct and behavior of Miss Sean Jeffries in relation to this complaint. You can see the fact that you, after reviewing the call, and this is a part of the complaint that I lodged with you as well, that prior to her informing me of this decision, she was effectively trying to coach me to give answers to her on, I believe, the 4th of May, the previous call at the start of May. She was effectively trying to coach me to give the answers that would satisfy her in order to dismiss this case. So an example of this is that she was trying to explain to me that, what kind of resolution are you looking for, and I explained to her my opinion that no resolution that you can provide is going to be satisfactory, because obviously my mother's been murdered. So obviously that was an opinion. It seems to me that you cannot basically make the decision to, okay, well, this is, and she has also already confessed to me that this is as far as her understanding is, that this is a quote unquote complex case. And when I sought clarity upon this, the reason that she's classified it as complex is because it's multifaceted and it's over 20 complaints. So I asked you to look into this, that it seems quite evident to me that Miss Jan Jeffries was instructed over through maybe herself or through others to effectively end this case, and therefore on the 4th of July, which a call that you're telling me that you have reviewed several times, is it not clear from that call recording that she's effectively coaching me to give answers in order to justify your schema for refusal to investigate? First of all, she's asking me inappropriate questions like, obviously at this stage in May, after I had spent over like 12 hours explaining to all my complaints, we've gone past the point of whether what my expectations are. I was made very clearly of what your role is earlier on in the investigation. But can you understand that it seems very evident to me, or objectively speaking, that she has access to the schema rules? I don't have access to this. So she's looked upon this and said, well, how can I fit the Mr. Hussein's case into these to basically justify the dismissal? And so one of the ways that she's done that is to say that there's no reasonable prospect of succeeding, and another is that there's no aspect of finding a resolution and stuff. But I had clearly explained that at that stage that those were only my opinions, but quite clearly it seems to me that in hindsight that Miss Jeffries was effectively coaching me to give her the answers that she needed in order to justify looking to dismiss this case. So can you, after reviewing that, what do you have to say about, did your investigation find that was the case, or was that not the case after reviewing the call?
Mr. Hussein, I'll be honest with you, from listening to the calls, I didn't find that Miss Jeffries was at all trying to coach you into getting a dismissal. It was rather obviously getting the information, because she would need the information to continue an investigation. As I mentioned to you, to coach you into a dismissal, any dismissal request gets overviewed by Ombudsman. So another impartial body would be looking at it to go, well, how have you come up with this? And then reviewing that to be able.
Yes. I mean, look,
even if I've reviewed it and I can't see that she has. In retrospect to that, even when it gets to dismissal gets put through, an ombudsman will be reviewing that. How have you got to that case?
Jake,
an ombudsman will be
yes, I understand this, but can you understand that I have to look at, rather than I often come across this terminology of rhetoric versus reality. I live in reality rather than in rhetoric. Now, rhetoric is about your policies and procedures and what ought to be done rather than what is being done. Now, under these circumstances, rather than engage in rhetoric, I have to deal with reality. The reality is this: that I made this quite clear to Miss Jeffries from the start of the investigation process, that my mother has been murdered. She's been murdered through the local authority with the collusion of the senior judiciary, so the senior judges, but that is outside of the scope that I'm asking her to investigate. What I'm looking to investigate is the solicitors, because they were complicit in this. So that was my position from the start of the situation. I've made that quite clear, that obviously those are very serious allegations. What I'm effectively stating is that the solicitors, my own solicitors, which were funded by my legal aid, which are meant to be independent, were effectively colluding and conspiring. So when you say to me that, or when anybody in fact says to me that we are independent, this is the whole fraud. Okay, so it's that, can you evidence or have it factually established, or is it reality that you are independent? And I'm not even just making the argument that Miss Sian Jeffries is not independent from the Ombudsman because she works for the Ombudsman. I'm making the far more serious allegation, or the reality that I'm living through, because obviously before me I've got a dead mother, is because there is no independence. The judiciary is not independent. Nobody was independent throughout this. My even solicitors, as you can appreciate, they're my solicitors, they're getting paid by my legal aid, they were not acting independently. So it does not give me a great deal of confidence or reassurances when you're saying to me, well, this decision by Miss Jeffries is gonna be reviewed by an independent party, namely the Ombudsman. My central argument is that there is no independence, there is collusion and cooperation between all these various entities, not with even your organization, but extended out to the solicitors, to the judges, because can you understand that the judge themselves, irrespective of the Ombudsman, any judge is by definition meant to be independent and will look at the evidence. Now, can you understand that if any judge makes a ruling without reviewing the evidence, that is prima facie evidence in itself that that person is not independent. Hence why my central argument of why I'm taking the time to go through this process with yourself as an Ombudsman is that I don't believe the Ombudsman themselves are independent. They have received instructions from a higher authority to effectively end this case, and I'm just trying to understand how it's being ended. So effectively what I'm looking to do is I'm trying to catch you out in this collusion, because the whole way that this works, the only way that you get justified in what you're doing is to say to me, Mr. Hussain, we are independent. Like, for example, you're going to say, I'm an independent investigator from Sian Jeffries. I have to be independent to investigate her. All right. The Ombudsman effectively is independent from the decision that Miss Sian Jeffries has made, and therefore, can you understand? Independence is the key here. My whole argument is that there is no independence. There's only an illusion of independence in order to trick and fool people.
Would you say, Mr. Hussain, if I was to argue your state, it still wouldn't, and I'll say this in the politest way, you've stated your opinion, haven't you?
Yes.
As in, you believe this individual is not being impartial and not being independent. You don't believe that the organisation is, and you've even stated that you feel that there's not an independence because they're following the rules. You're speaking to a person in the Ombudsman who said it's been done to a guideline. They've kept it impartial, but as you've just said to me, that you don't believe that it is. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't know what else I can do to.
No. I'm not here to
try and.
Yes, you're right.
You're saying otherwise, definitely not, because how you just stated it to me. By all means, you said your opinion. You don't believe that this is being followed this way, that this is independent. I've gone and explained these. I can see that the guidelines have been followed.
Okay.
Gets escalated to an ombudsman, who will then be able to make their decision to see if Sian Jeffries has actually made a dismissal correctly based on an impartial decision.
Mm-hmm.
If it is any hint that it isn't impartial, which I've looked and kind of can see from judging from how the case has been going on, I can see that it's been processed correctly. Now, is a dismissal correct based on how she's looked at the case? It's like, for example, me going, is the case decision correct? If you went to the case decision and we was to check the case decision. It would go to a final decision with an ombudsman to then give their decision. It wouldn't come to a team leader to decide, well, has she been impartial with the case or not? It would go to an ombudsman who would then investigate the case because that's what their speciality is. Now, on this remit, from what you're advising to me, is that you don't believe that Sean Jeffrey at all has been impartial during this case. Investigated it from the parties to see, from the complaint heads that you've mentioned to me. And what you're saying to me now is you don't believe that the ombudsman is impartial. And what I'm trying to say to you now is, Mr. Hussain, that, and I say this in the most nicest way, that is an opinion that you have.
Yes.
I can only give you from what my
Yes.
resolution is.
Yes.
Based on your opinion, I can't
Okay.
turn around and say to you,
Okay.
your opinion's wrong.
No.
Mr.
Can I interrupt? Can I interrupt? You're perfectly right. The whole point of me expressing this opinion is not first of all, it's an opinion that I formulated outside of you. You're not going to be able to change that opinion, and obviously I'm not asking you to change that opinion. I'm not asking you to convince me of anything. That's not your job. I fully understand that, but I'm just expressing an opinion. Okay, it's just an expression. Yes, and that's so. That does not mean the fact that because I'm expressing an opinion that I should be discriminated against or prejudiced against. You accept that, don't you? So that is my position. So the central argument that any reasonable person would say, okay, Mr. Hussain, your opinion is that nobody's impartial. So why are you going to the time and effort of coming to the ombudsman then? If your opinion is that the ombudsman is not impartial, so why are you bothering to come with the ombudsman then? Because nothing the ombudsman concludes is going to be helping to change your opinion. Can you understand? That would be a reasonable response to say to somebody who's expressing this opinion. My answer to that is that my opinion is irrelevant. What I'm looking to do is establish facts. And that is what I'm basically, my opinion, I can have an opinion, but I have to put it to the test for myself. And in order for me to put it to the test, I need to give the benefit of the doubt of this independence. All right. So therefore, my opinion should not prejudice anything I'm doing. If it does prejudice anything, so you can say to me, Mr. Hussain, after listening to you today, I personally concur with Miss Jeffries. Nothing we're going to do to be able to satisfy you. So I think she's right. But what I'm trying to say is that my opinions should not be used as evidence in order to dismiss something. Look, even if you were to say, even if everything went 100% in my favor, all right, and everything, the ombudsman said, no, Mr. Hussain, you're 100% right. Yes, they've done something wrong. Will that change my opinion of of my fundamental opinions that there's no impartiality? No, it will not. Okay, that's a long-held belief. It would basically be evidence to dissuade me from that opinion. Because I can say, well, wait a minute, how do I justify holding that opinion? Because, wait a minute, this ombudsman has done everything in my favor effectively. And so therefore, how do I justify holding this opinion? You see, opinions can be moved. They're based on reality or based on what you experience. So what I've experienced throughout my years is that there is no independence. It's a facade in order to make money. Money is the crucial aspect here. Everybody's getting paid money, so it's basically to trick or fool the people. All right. So I need to have evidence to counter that. So this whole point of me exercising this is for me to be convincing myself that, wait a minute, how can you justify, for example, the ombudsman is not impartial when effectively they've done everything in your favor? All right. And then obviously that's for me a difficult argument to make. So I then have to change. I'm being forced to change my opinion. But irrespective of my opinion, the ombudsman should be doing their jobs based on what? Based on objectivity and based on the facts. Now, can you understand that I've basically made, nearly 20 allegations against the solicitor's firm. Just anybody. Just imagine this. If I made 20 allegations against you, and all of those allegations were independent from each other, so they're not the same allegation rephrased in a different way. There were 20 different allegations made against you, Jake. And for your answer to be, well, no, none of them are right. All right. And to dismiss all of them, all right, clearly gives me some credence that, wait on a minute, all of them are wrong. All right, some of them maybe, can you argue one of them, but for you to say simply no, none of them are right, helps me build up that no, maybe they are right. So similarly, I've made 20 complaints regarding the solicitors firm. The solicitors have turned around and said, nah, none of it's right, it's all wrong. All right, so I've gone to somebody independent, which is yourselves as the ombudsman. Now, the ombudsman can equally say, well, let's look at each one of these 20 and let's evaluate each one of them. Effectively, what evidence I'm relying upon in my informing my opinions is that surely I couldn't even make up 20 different complaints, could I? I mean, they would require some level of intelligence or some level of creativity to make certain allegations. I've not just pulled them out of the air. If, for example, let's just run this exercise. If I was to make 20 complaints about you quite independently, do you agree with me that that would be a challenging task? Yes? Yeah, and I'm not on I'm not on that. I do not know what you look like. I do not know what your ethnicity is. But I can make one of the allegations. Oh, Jack's been racist towards me. Can you understand? I can make that one argument, not knowing the fact that maybe you are a black person yourself, or an Asian person yourself. I don't know that. So can you understand that one complaint would require, can be easily bringing about my bring me into a state of discredibility because I've just made something that doesn't have any validity. Now I've made 20 allegations against this law firm. The ombudsman have accepted these and then found effectively a way to sabotage this through some contrivance, and I've spent over maybe 15 hours explaining all my complaints. That requires a certain amount of effort on my part. I've done that now. So moving on from that, I've then spent a considerable amount of time speaking to you regarding all these complaints, specifically regarding Sean Jeffries. I've explained to you that I do have dyslexia, but as you can clearly discern by speaking to me, I'm a very intelligent person. I can hold my conversation. Yes, there's no doubt about my intelligence.
Nobody's denying that.
Yeah, no, there's no
to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Like obviously speaking to you on the phone. That's why we have to speak to you in length, because we both had a good understanding. We both built a rapport, and I still think that I'm still having a pleasant conversation with you now. Everything that you've mentioned, Mr. Hussain, I'm not here feeling, this is a person complaining, because you have justified what your complaints are. You've given the reason. All I've done, as I've said to you, is given my review,
yes,
given my resolution.
Yes.
Now the steps that you can take through the complaint procedure, if you're not happy with my resolution, it can be escalated to a stage 1. At the same, obviously, a dismissal's been put in, been escalated to an ombudsman. As I said to you, at no point through this call, you've got your opinion by all means.
Yes.
And as I said to you,
yes,
no disrespect to your opinion at all. What I'm trying to say is that from what I can see at the moment, given the complaint heads that I've staged out, I can't see that Sean has come up with this resolution without following
yes.
these steps.
Okay.
Now,
can you explain that to me? Can you just sorry to interrupt you there? Can you just explain that to me? How can just explain that to me, that little aspect, okay? Because I understand it's gone to an ombudsman and everything else. How can any independent person come to the conclusion that this whole case, the whole 20 complaints, comes under the heading of no reasonable prospect of succeeding? Rather than taking on just my opinions alone, which I've obviously been very vocal about, I continue to be vocal about, that cannot. You accept that my expressing these opinions will not or should not be prejudicial or discriminatory against me. So, based in the absence of my opinions,
no, not at all, because then that wouldn't be impartial.
That's right. Yes.
You say, for example, we had somebody on the phone who was being very vocal, being really aggressive. Not to the individual, the investigator, but about the organisation.
Yes.
Swearing,
yeah,
this, they've done that, they've done this,
yeah.
really aggressive.
Yeah.
We spoke to a service provider, very pleasant, I'll do this, that's fine, being all great on the phone.
Yep.
That doesn't shroud us with giving a decision.
Yes.
You can have a person on the phone that are complaining, being very, very horrible on the phone. But the evidence that they've put, the discussions that they've had, the scope call, whatever they've provided, if we still come up to a process where we still believe, well, to be considered on the grounds of everything, it would still be
Yes.
It would still be it was given the evidence we found that the complainant is in favour of the complainant, we'll still go for that.
Yes. So I mean,
how you speak over the phone, what opinion you give, how you present it, does not
yes.
give any indication to us to give a decision.
Yes.
Because then we'll be given a false decision based on.
Yes.
And then every solicitor will be nice when they speak to us.
Yes.
We'll be nice to the Ombudsman. They won't do anything bad to us. No, they won't.
Yes.
They'll always be in our favour.
Yes.
That's not how we get on, because then
yes.
what would be the point of investigating?
Yes.
Because what we would do then is say, we want 2 calls with you. Whoever's the pleasant person on the call will make
yes.
a decision whether to
yes.
back their case or not.
Yes.
And,
once again, Jack, once again, Jack, you know, you're describing to me what should happen, what ought to happen, but I always look at what has happened. Now, can you understand? I'm not any further clearer on this decision. How can Miss Jeffries or anybody be in a position to make the decision, accepting the fact that my opinions are not going to be taken into consideration, and without the evidence that the case can be dismissed? If you can help me understand this, then we can move on from this, because I'm still no longer clearer, because the whole point of the investigation, for example, if you had investigated this and you said, oh, it's open to Miss Jeffries' discretion, you did say the fact that you express your opinions, those have been taken into consideration, and therefore Miss Jeffries was right upon that. That's not what you're telling me. You're telling me that my opinions don't count. Okay, I can have any opinion I want. That was not a contributing factor to Miss Jeffries' decision. In the face the fact that there was no evidence reviewed by Miss Jeffries, how can she make a decision on the fact that the whole case, the whole 20 complaints, has no reasonable prospect of succeeding, based on what? And that's what I'm trying to understand.
So she based her dismissal based on the gathering of the conversation she's had with yourself and the evidence of what she had so far.
No, just hold. Let me just stop you. Sorry, let me just stop you there. Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you there. She based on exactly what evidence? There was no evidence.
That's what I was going to say. Now, I understand that at this present time, no evidence has been given the formula or the format of how the evidence is presented, is going to be presented. At that moment in time, Mrs. Sean has come up to the conclusion, which is this case is due to dismissal. Now, again, I can't get into the detail on the reason why she has seen from the discussion she's had from you and processed an opinion of her dismissal request to go across. That's why it's been passed over to.
Yes, I understand this. But
opinion on that.
Yes, I understand this.
She's been able to get to that. She's followed the scheme rules, given the fact that no evidence has been given. From her intel, she sees that there is an opportunity, given the fact of how the case is as it stands at the moment, and discussions she's had with you, not based on her opinion, not based on what your opinion you've given, but you see from an outcome, she's just gone with, right, there is airs for this to be dismissed because, on what grounds can she win off? On what grounds can this be, can this be a success? So from that point on, it would be classed. She's gone through the procedure of going, right, I need to apply for dismissal to see if this is a case of dismissal. If an ombudsman rules it out, the investigation continues.
No, I understand that, but you're not helping me understand the central question that I'm asking is that you're telling me on the one hand that my opinions that I've expressed to Miss Jeffries should not be a contributing factor. Should the complexity of the case be a contributing factor that is too complex, namely that there are 20 complaints and it's too costly to investigate? Should that be a contributing factor?
No. The complexity of the case determines whether the complexity rating of the case, whether it's level 1 or a level 2 goes to a higher. If it's got 20 complaint heads, if it's got 7 complaint heads, if we can find room to continue an investigation for it, we will. If it gets to sensitivity where it's very high, it gets escalated to
Yes.
support from an ombudsman
So
to deal with that.
so
So at no point would that dismay
yes.
the case finding.
Can you understand? I need to understand, generally speaking. So, for example, if you were to say to me, Mr. Hussain, if you, for example, bring us like 200 different complaints for that is a cut-off point, and we will not be investigating that, and that's a poor use of our resources. I understand that. Then so there is an arbitrary number that you have which limits you investigating that. If that was explained to me, then I can understand that is one of the reasons, that maybe because I bought 20 complaints, that was the arbitrary number that overpasses the ombudsman investigating, which is not being explained to me, which I'm asking for an explanation from. But that is not the case. If, for example, you say, Mr. Hussain, what the opinions you've expressed, namely there's a conspiracy, we're never going to be able to satisfy you, that effectively means the fact that we cannot investigate your complaint. That would at least be some justifications for this. Alternatively, if you were to say, oh well, after having reviewed independently both evidence from both parties, I see that there is not enough evidence for the ombudsman to actually investigate this complaint, that would be a justifiable reason to end the investigation. Can you understand that there has to be given to me at this stage what is the explanation being put forward that the case needs to be put to an ombudsman? No explanation is being given, and that's why I am really struggling with this, is because if you were to give me any explanation, all right, then I can understand, but you're not giving me an explanation. What you're telling me is that according to Schedule 4 that there is no reasonable prospect of it succeeding. I've asked you to investigate, or I've asked for a simple response. I think that's only fair. I don't care if it's like unjustified, if I don't agree with you or whatever. But at this moment in time, you're not giving me an explanation of why that this case needs to be, dismissed. Because if you're to say that, or because you express,
I can't give you a reason as to why the case needs to be dismissed, because it hasn't been dismissed yet.
no, but what is the justification for it? No, sorry, maybe I used the wrong phraseology though. What is the justification of it? It's, can you understand? Like, for example, if you were to say to me, Mr. Hussain, because you bought 20 complaints, that goes beyond our scope, and I can say, well, no, I don't think that's right. I can complain about that, but at least that is an explanation. If, for example, another explanation is that you expressed your opinion, which is that you're never going to be satisfied, that is a reason. I may disagree with that, but that's still an explanation. At this moment in time, I do not know what is the reason for this case going before the ombudsman and not being continue to be investigated. You've not given me that reason. I just need a reason.
So explain that again, so I can make sure.
Okay, so let me say this slowly. At this moment in time, I do not know why the investigation is looking to be dismissed to a decision being made by the ombudsman, by Sian Jeffries, because she's not explained to me what is her justification for this her decision to dismiss the case. All right, because, for example, and I reiterate this, if it was the case that I had said that I'm never going to be satisfied and expressed an opinion, and Miss Sian Jeffries believes that according to your procedures, if the person says that he's never going to be satisfied, so our exercise is futile, and therefore because you said that you're never going to be satisfied, that is a justification to end this case. If that's not been explained to me, it's not been explained to me that because you expressed an opinion, we've taken that opinion on board, and that's justifying for it not to be investigated. If, for example, you can say that there are 20 complaints, that's going to be too much resource intensive, we don't feel that the ombudsman's resources are utilized appropriately, then that could be a justification. I do not know what is the cause of escalating this matter to the ombudsman.
Of the cause of escalating it to an ombudsman is because she sees, because the investigator sees that on the air of this case, it runs into the 5.7. So if she has an indication that it runs alongside of what a 5.7, has the 5.7 further process to go through a dismissal.
Yes.
And then what she goes is that through areas of where she's investigating the case, the complaint heads that she's been given, she sees that at this case, as it stands at the moment, it took for a 5.7 dismissal.
Oh, okay, what is 5.7? Sorry, Jack. Could you just tell me what is 5.7?
So the 5.7 under the dismissal, let me get it for you right now. So the 5.7 is grounds for dismissal or continuing a complaint. So what will happen is that you will get an explanation from an ombudsman as to the reason why they come up.
No.
And the reason why they've come to that decision.
No, that's a decision, isn't it? I'm just asking, Miss Sian Jeffries utilize what exactly your scope is. What is 5.7? I don't have it in front of me. Is it one where which states that there's no reasonable prospect of it succeeding, or is it the one that says that
It does not have a reasonable prospect of succeeding or a frivolous or
frivolous? So therefore, yeah, that is.
And to because this is an ombudsman. This is obviously from the ombudsman. There's going to be a letter sent out to you as well.
Yes.
So what it is that there's no complex reasons why it would be appropriate for the issue to be dealt with by the legal ombudsman. That's where the 5.7 challenge
Yes.
comes from. So she found that this case it can't be dealt with by the legal.
Yes. I mean, like for
now, if I was to go into detail about the case, then and to go in the fine lines and be like, right, from looking at the evidence or looking at how the case has been proceeded, who she spoke to, what's been done here, and done an investigation myself, which
no, I understand.
Doing, then I'll be able to tell you, well, I can see from the investigation part, she's come to the conclusion based on she spoke to you here and you said this or she said this. She's got this evidence from from the service provider and has come up with a conclusion that it would be at 5.7 to then raise it to an ombudsman.
Yes,
but I can't give you
no, that's fair enough.
Details
Okay.
of that. That's why it does seem like I'm trying to sway away, but I can't go into the details.
No, that's fair. That's fair enough. I understand.
My opinion
Okay, no.
All
But
I can say is.
yeah, look, I understand this, Jackie. Yeah, but the point is this: 5.7. Can you just read it out to me? What is 5.7? Is it where? Can you just read that out again to me? 5.7.
So the 5.7. So it would be. Let me just have a. Right. So request has been made. So the request has been made for the dismissal on the grounds that it doesn't make reasonable prospect of success.
Yes. Okay, so that's 5.7, isn't it? So in order for her to make, I need to understand how she can make that decision. That's her decision. But she's not explained to me how it is the case that it's got no reasonable prospect of success. As the examples I keep on giving yourself, that if she had received the evidence, or if you reviewed the evidence, and she said, based on reviewing the evidence, I do not believe that this has a reasonable prospect of success. It goes to the ombudsman. The ombudsman then looks at the evidence and looks at her decision and then either upholds that or overturns that. Now that I understand, but that's not what's been explained to me. That's just, you've just explained to me that, it's got no reasonable prospects of success. Now give me tell me what particularly about this case that Miss Sian Jeffries is obliged to tell me about, because she just can't say, well, you fit this criteria of. So
but then you're asking me to go into the
no.
details of the case.
No, I'm not asking you to go into the details of it. What I'm trying to explain to you at this stage is that a referral has been made to Miss Jeffries. According to the guidelines that you have, I would assume that if an investigator finds that 5.7 has been, as far as they're concerned, they have a duty to inform the ombudsman to do this. And she's followed the guidelines and she's informed the ombudsman. But also she would have a duty to explain that to me, that because of X, Y, and Z, we feel that 5.7, that this has got now, is being triggered. That is the complaint here, that she's not followed no doubt you would have guidelines to inform me. I am still in the dark as to what has constituted me breaching 5.7. That explanation needs to be given to me whilst also the matter being escalated to the ombudsman. I'm not objecting to her escalating this to the ombudsman. What my specific complaint is that I should not at this stage remain in the dark. Can you see in this conversation I'm having with you, I'm still searching in the dark. And ideally, this is a failure on Miss Jeffries' part. If Miss Jeffries had said, look, Mr. Hussain, I believe that based on the evidence that I've received, that this has got no reasonable chance of success, I am duty bound to escalate this to the ombudsman, and I'm explaining you to this is the reason, and this is the reason for my decision. All right, that would have left me in the knowledge or knowing what's happening. What's actually happened is I'm no more wiser today than I am when I spoke to Miss Jeffries of what is the reason that you have that's this been this 5.7 has been triggered, because obviously I'm still in the dark here. So I would it's not the
that is why it gets escalated to an
no, I understand that. The reason, obviously, that's an impartial, or the ombudsman is meant to be is an impartial person looking at Miss Jeffries, but she has to explain that to me first as well. I do not know. She said this
during the call. During the call, she explained her findings when she was speaking to you. She explained, obviously, during the call, when last, I think it was around the 6th of June. There was a conversation. She explained that the case is up for dismissal. That's where the conversation came from. And she explained it and also said she's going to send it in writing.
Yes.
I can see that it's been sent and the phone call was done. It's now been escalated to an ombudsman.
Yes. Okay. What has she explained to me that has what was her findings? How can you have findings without any evidence? That's what I'm trying to struggle to understand. So if you're having reviewed and investigated my ongoing complaint, can you just tell me now what was her findings in order to justify 5.7? What were her findings?
So you want me to find out what were findings? So what was the evidence? So again, you're asking.
No, not evidence, because there was no evidence. She did not see it. Well, look, I don't know how more succinctly I can make this. You've investigated this. Miss Sean Jeffries has obviously.
I've investigated it, Mr. Hussain.
Yes.
I've told you the process that she's gone through. I've advised that she's followed. I've even gone through the steps of the scheme rules to say that that Sean Jeffries has come to the conclusion that it's dismissal. I've gone through the stages of the scheme rules. That's the reason why she's felt like that. I've also said that she's come up with this conclusion based on her investigation. She's followed the correct procedure and sent it off to an ombudsman to check to see if the ruling is correct. From that point of manner, I can't then turn around and say the reason why she said it is because this point here, this point here, this
no,
Mr.
Jake. Mr. Jake.
But again, Mr. Hussain, I'll told you the steps that she's took.
Yes, but can you?
Saying that you want to know the reason why she's come up with a dismissal, and I've said she's followed the correct steps. She's seen that there's no reasonable prospects of success.
Yes.
From that manner, she's then done the correct procedure.
Okay.
If she sees that, if she feels that from her investigation findings, so she went on seek with the ombudsman's decision.
Yes.
It is due for a dismissal, which she's gone to, and the ombudsman will be replying back to you.
Okay, I understand that.
Whether or not it's been dismissed.
Okay, I understand that aspect.
To give a reason.
No.
Sean Jeffrey has took.
No.
With this conclusion.
No, I'm not asking. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm not asking you to justify her decisions. No, I'm not asking. Please understand what I'm trying to ask here is that the ombudsman is aware of this and the referral has been made. You accept the fact that I need to also be informed of what her findings were. Her findings cannot simply be that it's my decision that you have that it falls under 5.7. I do not know what in this particular case. She's not provided me with this information, and I'm still obviously asking the question to yourself is that what exactly has concluded her with the decision that this has no reasonable prospect of succeeding when no evidence, she cannot make a finding or a decision without any reviewing any evidence. If my opinion does not count, if the complexity of the case does not count, I am still no more clearer as to why that this falls under 5.7. I need to be clear. So when the ombudsman comes back to me saying that yes, I concur with Miss Jeffries, that I would.
That's what the ombudsman.
Yes.
When an ombudsman gets back to you, they will make clear points about the case and as to reasons for the findings.
But
from that point, you're still in position to obviously have those comments based on that case. Based on
okay.
So the ombudsman has looked through from it, and they will be able to give you Sean Jeffries has based on this statement or based on this information regarding the case has come up with this, and then the ombudsman will be putting it through on the section as to where the reasonings come from, based on the investigation of the case.
Okay, but why can't Miss Jeffries explain that to me? Because you're saying that she's written out to me, all right? That written.
Did she say that over the phone? Did she spoke to you over the phone on the 6th of in June to discuss that there's a dismissal being put in?
Yes.
There was a discussion between both of you in June talking about the dismissal.
Yes.
So for her, and it was also said that you do not want any further communication from Mr. Jeffries. So it has been passed to an ombudsman who will then be giving you their findings. So I'm trying to just, what is it that you're asking me to get from?
Look, am I not making my maybe there's a problem in my communication or the way I'm expressing myself, because look, I don't know how else to phrase this. If Miss Jeffries has made a decision, that decision has been relayed to the ombudsman. That I accept that. That's part of her policies or procedures and stuff. But at this stage, we're on the 11th of July. I am not clear in any of the writing. I've read that. I've had lengthy conversations with Miss Jeffries. As you can appreciate, you've reviewed all those calls. You've also gone through all this. I should quite clearly be saying, oh, okay. Even though I may disagree with Miss Jeffries' decision, but the reason that she's had to escalate this as no reasonable prospect of succeeding is because of X, Y, and Z. And when the ombudsman gets back to me with X, Y, and Z, why should I have to wait for the ombudsman? Because at this stage, I need to know what X, Y, and Z are in order to justify the section 5.7. It can't be just.
But this was explained in the conversation that you had in June.
What was explained? Maybe I'm missing something. What was?
For the dismissal, she explained the dismissal in the conversation with you.
Do you remember? Do you recall having? Because right now, why would I be asking this question from you? What if you?
Because you're asking me to investigate why Sean has come to this conclusion. That's what you kept. That is what you're asking me. Why she come to this? How she come to this conclusion? And I've said to you, I don't know. I can't give the reason as to. I can't investigate the reason why Sean has thought that this case needs to be dismissed. Based on the fact that I would have to go into depth about the case.
But she should.
And that is for what that is for what an ombudsman.
Yes, I understand. But she's not explaining.
Of the case.
Look,
go.
Sorry. So basically, but yes, I understand all that. But you're trying to tell me she's explained to me. Then why am I asking these questions? Because I am no wiser of what exactly has her husband.
And I've advised to you that an ombudsman, when they get in touch with you, will be able to clarify all this for you.
No,
give you
I understand.
Details about the case itself, all about the reasons for it, because they can go into depth regarding the case and be able to give their decision on the dismissal.
Okay, I understand.
The reason why I can't give you, obviously, go into details about the case, because it would be me going into details about the case.
No, I don't want you to go
into details to see,
has
the case been processed correctly? And from what I can see, each guidance that has been taken has been followed correctly. Now, it's come up to a dismissal decision. From that view, it's only an ombudsman that is authorised to decide, has Sean been dismissal which is correct. An ombudsman can only decide that. I can't decide that.
Okay, all right. No, I understand that.
That's
But
why
is Sean's decision, is Sean's findings or whatever, is it secret right now? Should it be secret? Should I be in the dark?
No, but she's already advised you that it's up for dismissal, and the
Yes.
ombudsman will be getting in touch with you.
Yes, I
So
under.
so she's followed the process to go, right, okay, it's been escalated to an ombudsman.
I'm not in the
decision.
Miss Jake, I'm not in the dark about that. I'm fully aware that this matter has been escalated to the ombudsman. I'm not in the dark about that, am I?
Okay.
All right, so I'm not in the dark. That's what's been explained to me. What am I in the dark about?
What are you in the dark about?
Yes.
What's the reason for Sean's dismissal? This is what you're saying.
No. Yes. I'm in the dark because I don't.
You said to me, what is the reason? You don't know what the reason is as to Sean looking to put this up for a dismissal.
What she's explained to me is that it falls into category 5.7. Okay. But that is not okay, and that I'm not in the dark about that, am I? I know that's been written down to me. It's 5.7. I've read 5.7. I'm not in the dark about that. I'm not in the dark about that she's escalated this to the ombudsman. What I am in the dark about is why has she not explained to me that because of X, Y, and Z regarding specifically the case, why has she not explained that to me right now in writing? All she's explained to me is that in writing that she's escalated it to the ombudsman. It's her opinion that it falls under 5.7. Fair enough. I'm not in the dark about that. What I'm in the dark about is in reference to the case itself, Sean Jeffries has not explained to me at this stage why she has felt the need to escalate it. I should know that. I shouldn't have to wait for the ombudsman's decision. At this stage, I should know what exactly the reasons are. And I've gone over this with yourself several times. If Miss Jeffries has said, based on my findings on investigation so far, I believe reason X is this, reason Y is this, reason Z is this. Therefore, I feel that this now falls under section 5.7, no reasonable prospect of succeeding, and I'm escalating this to the ombudsman. If that had occurred, then I would not be in the dark right now. I'm presently in the dark, and that is the basis of my complaint, is that no policies or procedures that you have in place should place me in the dark right now. I do not know, and if I do not know, that's a failure on Miss Sean Jeffries' part. Surely that's a failure on Miss Sean Jeffries' part.
Surely during this conversation you had on June, you didn't want Sean Jeffries to get in touch with you further. You said you was going to wait for the ombudsman to make their decision.
No,
Sean Jeffries has not been in touch with you.
Yes, but no. This is we're going off topic here. What I'm trying to stay on topic here.
I'm going off the
Yes.
the call that you made.
Yes,
that was in June, and the instructions that you
I
gave.
give.
Sean Jeffries advised to you that there was a dismissal on the case.
Yes.
You then had further had a discussion about it, and you said, which was mildly,
Yes.
don't wish to discuss any
Yes.
matters with you. It's getting escalated to an ombudsman. I'll await them to be in touch.
Just hold on 1 second. Did I not? The justification was for me not to talk to her was because I was lodging a formal complaint. Was that not the reason?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so that was a reason why I felt it inappropriate for Miss Jeffries to speak to me, because I had lodged a formal complaint, and I had asked her when the last time we spoke that I'm going to be complaining about you, so I don't think it's appropriate for us to have any further discussions. But irrespective of whether I speak to her on the telephone or not, it is quite clearly evident in the documentation that she's made, or that I should not be. You understand? You're an intelligent and reasonable person. That at this stage, I should not be in the dark about what the exact case findings are that justified the decision. I should not be in the dark about that. And I am in the dark about that. And surely the reason I'm in the dark about that is after numerous telephone conversations, I am no wiser as to why this has been escalated to the ombudsman, who's going to look into this, or irrespective. But at this stage, while the ombudsman, this matter is going to get transferred to the ombudsman, you can understand that I should not be in the dark. If Miss Jeffries had explained to me that because you had expressed an opinion, because you had said this, or because of this thing in the case, right, then that's fair enough. All right, that would have been an explanation. Or she could have said, because the evidence points to this, then I could understand that, I would be satisfied. But the bottom line is that no explanation has been given by Sean Jeffries, and I believe that aspect alone is the failure of Miss Jeffries, to fail to explain to me, irrespective on the telephone. She, not even in the writing does it explain to me anywhere that the reason, the X, Y, and Z, what I'm in the dark about, that's given the justification. Because I've explained to you, she had no access to any evidence. My own opinions you've accepted are not relevant. The number of complaints are not relevant. That's irrelevant. So what is the relevance, find or relevant aspect? That's not, I'm in the dark about that. What is, how can she, that's why I've said it's premature, because she's not got access to any of the evidence and nothing. So I should, you know, Mr. Jake, I'm getting slightly baffled here, because I do not know how more clearly I can express this to yourself. I should not be in the dark. It's a failure of Miss Jeffries to enlighten me of her justification. She's not done that. She's made a referral to the Ombudsman, which I accept. Okay, I'm not denying her right to do so, but she equally has an obligation to me to help me understand and not keep me in the dark. Why should I wait for the Ombudsman to enlighten me? Why did Miss Jeffries not enlighten me? She's not given me a justification for raising this to the Ombudsman. What is the justification that she's written down to me, or relate to me after you've listened to the calls? Can you explain to me what the justification is right now?
So the justification, what I can see from what she's raised to you, is that she's mentioned that the case will be looking to go to a dismissal at 5.7 due to the fact that she doesn't find any reasonable success to the case based off the information which has been given.
Which information?
Right, from the phone calls.
Which information? So
based off the discussion.
So
Mr. Hussain, I need to apologise for a moment because I know we've gone over time. Right? I'm happy for this case if you want for the complaint to be escalated to a stage 1. All I can say on the matter is I've explained it in the resolution for you. I've explained the stages that they've had to go through. I've explained the matter of how far to go through with the investigation based on the fact that I can't go into depth of the case itself.
Yes.
Ombudsman is definitely going to be in touch with you, which will give you the following information, which is reasoning as to the dismissal under the 5.7 and breaking it down for you. If you want Mr. Hussain, if you still don't think that this case has been resolved, I can escalate this to a stage 1, given the fact that you've got a complaint fact sheet. I'm happy to get that sent back out to you, again, to give you the stages of that, and I'm happy to escalate this to a stage 1.
Okay, before, can you...
All I want to say is that I can't go any further because I just feel that we are going around in circles.
Okay, all right.
And I don't want to make you frustrated and I don't want to waste your time. So I understand that on a call, you're even saying to Sean about the length of time that we spent.
Yes.
I certainly don't want to be wasting.
No, you're right. You're right, Jack. You're right. And now, obviously, you were... first of all, as you can appreciate, if I escalate this matter to a further complaint, which I have the intention of doing, it's going to be more of my time and resources, which I'm obviously very conscious about, my own time and resources that I'm having to allocate to this. Yes, and as you can appreciate, and I make this point very pertinently.
I'll do the escalation for you.
No, it's all right.
I'll be happy to. It's also not process to do that.
No,
I need to inform that we haven't come up to a resolution from this phone call.
Yes, that's fair enough. And I would ask you to do that. But when I say my time and resources, can you understand that we've been on this call now? How long have we been on this call now for? Nearly 2 hours. Nearly 2 hours now. Can you understand that this 2 hours, that this is part of your job, isn't it? You're not doing this as a favor to anybody, to the Ombudsman. You're going to be financially remunerated for your time, aren't you? Because you're an employee of the Ombudsman. This is your time. You're doing your job, aren't you, effectively? So these 2 hours have been productive financially for yourself. I don't mean to be so crass, but in the sense that this is your job, isn't it? You're getting paid to do this job, aren't you? Right? Yes. So basically, and this is part of your role. So these 2 hours are not a lost time to you. This is what I'm trying to say. My time and resources. Can you understand conversely that these last 2 hours of mine are not being financially? I'm not being financially remunerated for them. Nobody's paying for me for bringing this complaint to you. I'm doing.
Not at all,
Yes, I understand.
As you just pointed out, we're
Yeah.
nearly at 2 hours.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I
So
scheduled an hour to discuss with you.
Yes.
I've even gone over that hour
Yes.
to continue.
Yes.
So
Yes.
whether it's about
No, what the point I'm trying to
time,
make it.
obviously, it's like,
The point I'm trying to make here is that for me to escalate it, this is more of my time and resources which are valuable to me that are not being remunerated. You cannot make the same argument that this is, we're not, the same argument does not hold true, does it, for yourself? Because your time, if you're not on the call with me, you would have to be doing some other work, which is still work that you're getting paid for. So this is the point that I'm trying to say about my time and resources. So I would like this matter to be escalated to the first stage. So just so we can look to bring this call to a conclusion. Okay, but Mr. Jake, that you pertinently just were on the point there before you deviated away. You said that Miss Jeffries has wrote to me and explained to me, and you're not in a position to tell me exactly what the justification was, are you?
A justification as to the reason why she came up with her decision for a dismissal. I can't go into the case, so no, but I can see that she followed the guidelines, yeah.
Okay, so where will I get that information from?
Where she come up with her.
Yes,
that
because
will be sent to you within the letter that you'll get from.
No.
That you'll get from the Ombudsman.
No, that's the decision of the Ombudsman after reviewing her decision.
But they'll give you the explanation as to why they came up to that conclusion.
Yes,
so
yes,
this is the reason why it's come to this. So you'll have that in that section.
Yes, but at this moment in time, and that can be whenever the Ombudsman decides to get back to me. In the interim, I need to know exactly how. I need to. What's stopping me being given that information right now?
What's stopping? Because
the decision's already been made.
Sean Jeffries to speak to you with regard to the case, because then she's the investigator that will be able to give you the reason as to why the case has been dismissed. But as I said, an ombudsman, if they dismiss it or even give the reason as to why Sean has come up with that reasoning, they will be able to give it.
But why has Sean? Yes, but why has Sean failed to give me the reasoning?
Pardon?
Why has Sean
failed to give you the reason?
Yes. Why?
From the call I can get, she's giving the reason that she's seen it from that stage and from the scheme rules.
No, that's not the reasoning, is it? That's the justification. That's not the reasoning, is it? I mean, there's a distinction there, isn't it? So that's the justification. She's justified it according to the section 4.7, but she's not given me the reasoning. And I think, as you can appreciate, I'm getting desperate to understand what the reasoning is. And that's hence why I raised this complaint. Because I still am no wiser of the reasoning. Why she's felt it necessary to raise this to the Ombudsman. What's her reasoning behind it? I don't have that explanation in writing to me, even in the telephone conversations, even speaking to you now. You're saying that you can't go into the case file. And I would like, before this, at least one productive thing from this call should be, at this stage, if somebody can provide me with the reasoning, then obviously the Ombudsman will say, given these reasonings, I concur with Miss Jeffries or not. But I think it's a failure on the part of the policies or procedures that I, as the complainant, do not know the reasoning behind why Miss Jeffries' decision. There's no reasoning behind it.
Well, I can certainly do. I will speak to the investigator and get them to send you a detailed reasoning as to where they come, what the reason for the dismissal or the decision to send it off for dismissal.
Yes. That's the whole point of this and of me raising this complaint with you. Remember, there were other auxiliary complaints that I had raised, but this was a crucial aspect, is that this was a preemptive decision and there's no reasoning given to me. And I think that as an ombudsman, as an organization, you are obligated to give me the reasoning behind that. And so far, I can explain to you that I do not have the reasoning, hence why we've extended this call for an extra hour in order for me to try and gauge that from you. you're not in a position to give me the reasoning because you're saying you don't want to go into the case file. But Miss Jeffries is the investigator, and I can explain to you that I would like to have this matter escalated the first stage of the complaints procedure, because I'm not satisfied, because I think at this stage it's completely unacceptable that I should not know the reasoning. That the Ombudsman obviously knows the reasoning because it's been referred to him, but I do not know the reasoning. I've been given the justification for it, and the justification is schedule 5.7, no reasonable prospect of succeeding. That's the justification for it. There's no explanation being given to me regarding the reasoning behind that. There's no like references to what I've done or said or the case file. So that's what I'd like Ms. Jeffries to put in writing to me, so at least I have the reasoning in the interim, and I would like to escalate this matter to the first to your complaints procedure.
Not a problem at all. And just as I escalate, it's one of the part of the matters. What is your idea of a resolution to the complaint?
At this moment in time, given my experience by providing my opinions, I choose to withhold my opinions regarding what resolution that I'm looking for, because previously when I've answered that question, I've found that I've been discriminated against. So I don't want to answer that question at this moment in time, but the resolution I'm looking for, I guess, would be the optimum outcome.
The optimum outcome. It would be asked, what is the optimum outcome? Because there's more to stages than stage one. So to find out what an optimum outcome would be, there would
because yes, but can you understand? But can you understand, Jake, that in the past when people have said this to me, what is your expectation? And when I've forwarded my opinion, because you're asking my opinion, aren't you? Now you're not asking for a fact; it'll be my opinion.
I'm not asking for. I'm asking for what do you see as a resolution? So if you've made a complaint, obviously,
all right,
you've made a service complaint, there's an therefore right. How do I see that it's satisfied?
Okay. I've got an answer. I've got an answer.
We could turn around and say to you, "All right, that's fine. We apologise," and then leave it.
No.
And then say, "Well, that's our resolution."
Okay, my resolution. Okay, my resolution is for my complaint to be upheld.
Your complaint to be upheld.
Yes.
Your case, your investigation or your service.
No, my service complaint. So obviously you've asked me the question that if you want to escalate this complaint, my complaint is to my resolution is to have my complaint upheld.
Right. Okay. But how do we measure that?
Well, you hold it. So if I've made a complaint, all right, like for example, I've made a complaint to yourself, I'm escalating it. My resolution is that I would like you to uphold it. And how you measure it is by saying, yes, okay, we after investigating, we uphold your complaint. So that's the resolution.
So that's the only resolution that you want, is to have your complaint. Your complaint.
Okay, what are my options? What are my options then? What possible you've made?
What we need to ask. This is what we need to ask you.
Okay.
This is what you're asking. Because if you can imagine, if you make a complaint to someone, the first thing they'll ask, what's the dissatisfaction, and how do you see this complaint being resolved? My complaint being upheld.
Yes.
Okay, so if we say that your complaint's been upheld, what is it that you're looking for to say that the complaint?
Okay, all right. Let's just.
Are you looking for your case to be reinvestigated? Or are you looking for? I don't know. You're looking for compensation for time. I'm just giving you ideas.
Yes.
What kind of,
Okay. So.
But if you're just looking for it to be upheld, I mean, I can put that. But I just want to make sure that when I escalate this, you're clear and I'm clear, because obviously, as you mentioned, it's come up to a reason for complaint, that you know a resolution. So when the resolution comes in, if it is, and goes up to a stage one, you're not surprised that, hold on, so you've upheld my complaint, but that's not a resolution to me. You've only upheld my complaint. So I just want to make sure that you're clear as to what you're seeing as the resolution.
Okay, all right. Okay, can you explain? Okay, so
yeah.
we're not
I just want to make sure
yes.
that when I escalate into stage one, you're clear of what you're looking for a resolution.
Okay, all right.
I'm clear what I'm putting for a resolution, and stage one, more importantly, are clear to know what you're looking for.
Okay, all right. So because
we can make sure we're doing it.
Okay, because obviously, we've concluded that I'm not a stupid man. I'm an intelligent guy, and I don't want to be caught out again like I did last
Nobody's
time.
ever said
Yeah,
that any
no, no,
different.
I know. But like I said, so when you asked me the question of what resolution do I want, you've not explained to me what a possible. So you said that an apology, there could be financial compensation as a resolution. All right, I'm not sure what the.
I'm just saying what options. I'm just saying because you said what's the resolution. I'm just throwing options. I'm not saying this is what will happen. At no point, I just want to repeat that.
Okay.
I'm not saying this will happen. I'm saying, have you got an idea?
Yes. Okay. What resolution? What are resolution?
Leaving this conversation.
Okay.
Without you knowing.
Okay. Because you see.
Conversation with you not.
Yeah, because if I say something ridiculous like, oh, as a resolution to upholding my complaint because it's a service level complaint against Sean Jeffries, I want her to be shot dead. All right, that would be an unreasonable resolution, wouldn't it? That's not feasible. Yeah. Okay.
You'd be asking us to do something against the law.
Yeah. Okay. So
and then,
yes,
that'd be a threat to somebody else. It's not.
That's right.
I mean, Mr. Hussain, we do know. We're both adults on the phone here. If you've made a complaint, right? Ideally, you have an idea of what you will see as a satisfactory resolution to your complaint. If it is that you just want to see it upheld, by all means, I'll put that down. The only reason why I just questioned you on that is just to make sure that, okay, are you clear that if a resolution was to be done and then you used to receive something that said, well, we upheld your complaint, you said that's your resolution, that's fine. I would hate the fact for you to come at the back of it and be like, well, I didn't know the full ins and outs of.
Okay, all right. Well, all right, Jack. Can you explain to me? Can you explain to me that obviously Miss Sean Jeffries has explained to me regarding the resolution, regarding the complaint, regarding the solicitors. You've explained to me that with regards to like there can be financial repercussions for the solicitors firm, and the Ombudsman has the power to do that. Remember, we're not talking about the service provider. We're talking about Miss Sean Jeffries' handling of this complaint. Now, obviously, are you trying to tell me that there is a component of financial remuneration? Would that be possible? I'm not even sure if that is a possible. Like, if my complaint is upheld, then obviously there is no avenue for me to be financially compensated, is there, for a failure of Sean Jeffries as an employee of the Ombudsman? Is that what you're explaining to me? Is there an option for?
I am here just asking to see what idea of a resolution you have.
Okay. So
at no point would we turn around and say to you, "Oh, that's stupid. You can't get that." Or, I mean, obviously, if you're saying that for us to shoot somebody dead, obviously, I'm not gonna.
Yes.
We can't do that.
Or could you sack her? Would that be a reasonable option? Could you sack her?
Could we sack her? I mean, obviously, we could go through reviewing to see if there was misconduct and stages through that. Of course, there would be a case for review.
Yes.
But then, if we're saying, right, we've sacked an individual, that would be, obviously, we're talking about data protection with the individual's personal life and disclosing it to yourself as to what repercussion. We can say that we can go to this training.
Look, Mr. Yes. Yeah. Look. The reality is that asking me the question of what resolution I want. This is what I felt for last time. Obviously, the resolution that I would want is for my complaint to be upheld. If my complaint is upheld, then you, the Ombudsman, have an opportunity to accordingly train the individual properly, because obviously this is a failure of customer service or training, isn't it? That's the only resolution. My purpose of bringing the complaint to yourself is to highlight a failure on the part of your investigator, and the only resolution on why would that be, what benefit would that be of myself? Then the question is that what is the point of me raising the complaint? What material benefit do I have in taking the time and resources? I'm not targeting Mrs. Jeffries. I don't have nothing against her. I definitely don't want her to be shot dead or sacked or anything negative to happen to her. I'm just complaining of the way I've been treated. The only resolution for yourself is that once identifying an upholding my complaint, then that gives you as an organization an opportunity to carry out the appropriate training and quality controls to ensure that Miss Jeffries is appropriately trained and qualified in order for her to do her job properly. I think this aspect of putting me on the spot and asking me what resolution do I want is nonsensical to start with. All I want is my complaint to be upheld, because obviously I feel that something's gone wrong here. So I think that's a reasonable aspect for me to put a speed. There's an aspect of reasonableness, and a complaint upheld in my favor is basically giving you an opportunity to retrain the person and justify the fact that I've not just made all this stuff up. So I think that's a reasonable and appropriate step to take. I feel. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, as you can understand, Mr. Hussain, the reason why I just wanted to make sure that the resolution you asked for, because obviously you've spoken about, misunderstandings. I've even said it, a misunderstanding, and that's why I just wanted to make sure
yes.
it was clear.
Okay.
So I can put on here that you're looking for the complaint to be upheld. Obviously, if any aspect of being upheld, individual being retrained, and then obviously going from there.
Yeah, but I mean that if she's retrained or not retrained is no benefit to me, is it? It's just an opportunity for you as an ombudsman to take.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that
yes.
in the event of your case, in the event of your service complaint being upheld.
Yep.
That.
Yes.
We go through that.
Okay, so moving on from this, but the reason I'm escalating this matter is because obviously I've now spoken to two individuals, namely Sean Jeffries and yourself, Jack. I'm sorry, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce your surname, but. Yeah. So, what my impression is that obviously, the reason I've brought this matter to yourselves, this is the first time I'm experiencing the legal ombudsman, and it just seems to me to be, without disrespect to yourself, I am not raising any criticism to you at all. But the manner in which that I've been dealt with and treated by the legal ombudsman is a very haphazard Mickey Mouse operation. It seems to me nobody seems to be knowing what they're doing. It seems very clueless, and I'm very disappointed in the way that, not you personally, but how the ombudsman is run and operated. It seems to be like a very a shoddy enterprise. Nobody seems to be knowing what they're doing. Everything is basically haphazard, and as a member of the public, I'm very, very disappointed in the lack of professionalism being expressed or being received by me. It just seems to me like a very Mickey Mouse operation, and that's hence the purpose I am going through all this process, is to evaluate for myself how effective the legal ombudsman is as an organization. And so far I have not been overly impressed with how the matter has been handled. It's taken a considerable amount of my time and resources in order to get this far, and no doubt I believe that nothing has persuaded me otherwise than the opinion that I hold, that there is a level of collusion and incompetence that I'm being subjected to as a result of clear systemic failures throughout the whole of the organizations I'm facing. I just wanted to leave that criticism and comments with yourself, and the reason why I'll be escalating this matter to is it the first stage of the complaint resolution process?
Stage one. Yeah,
stage one. And who can I ask who will be handling that complaint?
It will go to the complaints team. So the email that I sent you under the resolution email that I sent you, it has their number and their email address on there. You can, by all means, still get in touch with them directly from there, or as I said, I will put the case directly to I'll be filling out the stages from here as well.
Okay. So can I just for my clarity, your understanding, now moving forward, there's no reason for me to speak to you again?
Unless you, Mr. Hussain, I'm not closing any channels. If you wish to speak to me further, if you want to send me an email directly to myself, by all means you can.
No, the reason no, there's no hostility between us. All I'm just saying is that.
No, that I'm saying.
Yeah. The only thing I'm saying is that.
If you need any information back from me, for example, if you're still waiting for the service team to get service complaints team to get in touch with you, and you want want to
Yeah, I mean
of
the
a constant communication
yes,
and a channel of communication. I hope that you can still feel that you can still
yes,
discuss with me while this is getting, because at the end of the day, all it is that you're making a service complaint against the service of the Ombudsman.
yes,
It's my duty and my care to also make sure to provide you with those open channels.
yes.
So, I mean, I know you've had a discussion with Sean and you did wish to speak to her. If by all means, Mr. Hussain, I hope the same's not with myself and you still want to use that channel to discuss at the matter. But if you don't wish to,
Yes.
by all means, that's perfectly fine. I can escalate I will escalate this to a stage 1. At the same time, I will keep my channels clear open. So at any time that you want to discuss with me, feel free to.
Yeah, no, I mean the reason personally I have nothing against Sean Jeffries as well, but can I the reason that I say this is that me and Sean Jeffries now we've ended business effectively. All right, there's no reason for me to continue.
Right, okay.
She's effectively. I no longer need to. We've got no business relation. There's no business of me speaking to her other than just clarity. Because obviously she's the investigator. She's made a decision. I feel that there's a failure that she, that I don't agree with the decision. So there's no reason for me to continue to speak to her. Obviously, I need that clarity of understanding of why the justification or the reason behind the decision. So basically, I've ended business with Sean Jeffries. I then raise a complaint with yourself as the manager. I believe that we've had several calls now. We've had several lengthy conversations. I don't believe that we've got any further business to talk about. I mean, obviously, if I need some clarity of understanding.
Unless you have further, if you want to discuss any further, by all means, my channels will be open for you.
Yes, but because the only things that we'll be discussing is we've already concluded. You've concluded your investigations. I'm not satisfied with what you've provided me. That's now going to be handled by a different person. So no doubt I'll be channeling all my attention to this the stage 1 complaints handler. If you can kindly advise them that it's my policy to always speak to people over the telephone, overwriting things, given my inabilities or dyslexia, and I look forward to reasonable adjustments, and if I can ask them to make contact with me ASAP. In the interim, you're going to advise Miss Jeffries to write out to me for the reasons of her justification to take this to the Ombudsman. Hopefully I'll receive some further clarity from Miss Jeffries, and then finally I'm still waiting to hear the final decision from the legal Ombudsman who the matter has been transferred onto. I believe that concludes everything.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I will we'll speak to Sean I will send her an email today, so when she gets back on shift to get the information sent out to you for the reason for the dismissal.
Yeah, the reasons have not been given to me. Yes, that's fine. Okay, I think that's everything.
Do you prefer that via email or by telephone?
Yeah, if you can just please send me by email the justifications. I don't think it's necessary for me to speak to. Yes,
no problem.
Because obviously.
I'll get that to send that out.
Okay. Okay, well, Jake, nice speaking to you. Thank you for giving me that extra time. And
always a pleasure. And as I said to you, my channels are always open. Is there anything else that I can help you with before that?
No, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very courteous that you've given me extra time, and hopefully we can get some resolution. Thank you very much, sir. Have a nice day. Thank you. Goodbye, sir.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. So as you can see, I spent over an hour, let's see, 2 hours on this call with Jake. What is his name? Osei-Tutu, I think his name. Osei-Tutu. All right, and this conversation was listed for 4:30 to 5:30. It's now he's called me exactly 4:30. It's now 18:57. We've been on this call for nearly I would say nearly 2 hours, well, over 2 hours. Let me just see how many hours that we were on this call, because it's ridiculous. And as you can appreciate, he was initially, there's a lot of failures going on here. I don't believe he's had enough time to investigate this. So we've 2 hours and 21 minutes. So he's not had enough time to investigate my complaints. It's basically a whitewashing exercise. He's then attempted to basically get some more time for himself, because he was supposed to reply by the 4th of July. That was 10 days. excluding any weekends, from the 20th. He's basically gone on the 29th, reviewed some video, reviewed some call recordings, reviewed some on the 3rd of July, then supposed to send me out one. So basically, he's tried to pull a fast one and try to quickly get more time for himself. No doubt he's overworked, no doubt he's got other priorities, no doubt, as he explained, he had other interviews to attend to. So he's not done an effective job of resolving the complaints. Basically, what he's done is given a whitewash to the situation, and I've not allowed him to do that. I've then obviously picked out one of the 7 complaints that are of the how many complaints were there in total? I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 complaints in total. I only dealt with one of them, which was investigator's decision to end the case was premature when no evidence was provided. That's the only one that we discussed today. We did not discuss investigator failed to attend calls planned for the 10th of March, which he 2023. Extra time is given to the service provider to reply to premature complaints and provide evidence that the deadline dates were not disclosed when required. Requested not to remain impartial during the investigation. Reasonable adjustments were not supported during the investigation. Inconsistent, conflicting information was given surrounding the presentation of delivery of evidence. Misleading information was given surrounding case decision comments and service complaint feedback, and time it took for the investigator to give you the team leader contact details. So basically, all the other ones he's done this in about an hour. He's just basically one paragraph dismissing everything I'm saying. Basically, gone through a whitewashing exercise very late on the 6th of July after I had emailed him around about 7 o'clock on the 6th of July that you said, hey man, end of play today and you're not giving me anything, and you're still, I'm still waiting for a response from you. So then he quickly rushed together, put something together and sent me a response. I have not let him go forward upon that. So I've done, obviously, we spent a big part of this call going through that. And then I said, all right, well, I'm happy with that. You've given me a breakdown of exactly what you've done up until this stage. All right. On the 9th, you did something. On the 3rd, you did something. All right. You basically listening to 7 hours of calls. All right, most of the time we're just listening to the calls. All right, so he could just whitewash it. It was basically a whitewashing exercise as far as his involvement was concerned. No doubt Sean Jeffries was a whitewashing exercise as far as she's concerned, and no doubt the Ombudsman is going to whitewash my complaints, my 20 legitimate complaints regarding Burke Niazi solicitors. But irrespective, we have to go through the process. Now, I've spent nearly 2.5 hours on this call simply to discuss these matters with him, have the call recorded, and we're at the stage now where he's basically escalating, basically this aspect of just complaint upon going to this ombudsman or going to here. It's just basically a time taxation exercise. It's a means to infuriate or frustrate the individual so they eventually just go away. I'm not going to go away. I'm going to go through all these procedures to fully exhaust the options available or open to me, and that's hence why I'm taking the time to fully go through all this stuff. But this individual, as you can see, he was on the defensive from the beginning. Then obviously I've asked him one question regarding the premature complaints. He's failed in the fact that he's accepted this complaint and then tells me that no, actually I can't investigate this. The whole point of the investigation aspect is to the whole point, we had a very lengthy first conversation, is for him to go through and determine what he can and cannot investigate. He said that he can investigate this. Now he's telling me he can't investigate this. It's basically a whitewashing exercise. So I then pressed him upon this, that why has Sean Jeffries not given me a reason, the reason behind her justification? No reasons have been given. And then you can see that he's looked through while he was on the call, he was looking through the paperwork, and obviously Sean Jeffries has simply given the justification of of her decision, but not the reason behind it all. I've then pressed him upon that. I said, look, yes, I would like you to get me the reasons for this for the justification of going to the ombudsman. And I kept on going over and over upon this, and I kept on getting very frustrated because he kept on telling me the same thing over and over again. It's gone to the ombudsman, he will give you the decision. But why should he give me the reasons for the decisions, for the justification? And so he's going to get Sean Jeffries to give me the reasons for the justification, but ultimately this is just all just a one big facade. They're getting me to run from pillar to post, going around, going loopy from going over all their policies, or where this is what we're supposed to be doing. And as you can appreciate, at the start of it, he's telling me what he's supposed to be doing, and I've been experienced at this many times before. They tell you what they're supposed to be doing, all right, but they don't tell you what they are actually doing. That's the difference between rhetoric and reality. Rhetoric is that this is what we're supposed to be doing, this is how our things are done, this is what's supposed to be doing, this is how the things done, but they don't tell me what's been actually happening. All right, this is what actually happened. All right, and they don't tell you that information, wasting my time and resources in order to frustrate me, in order for me to go away. And then they ask me silly questions like, what resolutions do you want? And this is the same question Miss Sean Jeffries has asked. What resolution do I want? I go, what do you mean? What resolution do I want? I want you to uphold my complaint. All right, and they're not looking to uphold any complaints. They're basically, the whole aspect of this is to get me to waste my time and resources, which are not remunerated, which are not financially remunerated, justified to them their wages, because obviously, like I said, he got paid just 2.5 hours. He got paid. He was doing his job, right? He's not doing this for free. He's got paid basically to listen to me talk for 2.5 hours, try to give me his excuses and justifications. And now that I've got effectively, they got all the information from me, they're just looking to whitewash it. And that's exactly what Sean Jeffries has done. She's basically sat down and wrote down the 20 complaints I had with the solicitor, and then eventually said, no, we're not, it's not justified enough. But she made a big mistake, and that mistake was that she did not wait for the evidence to come through. And this is one of the reasons that Jake could not tell me the reason. What was the reasons for the justification to end the investigation? They couldn't tell me that because there was no reasons. It was just basically arbitrarily done. The decisions had been made by the Ombudsman themselves that we don't want to investigate this, because if we investigate this, it uncovers uncovers murder and deception and corruption to at the highest echelons of society, namely the judiciary, the judges, basically undermines the whole system. And as I explained to him at quite length, that the reason that this fraud happens is because they tell you they're independent. Nobody is independent. They all work from the same hymn sheet. They all work in collusion and collaborate with each other simply to fool you that there's independence. You have to agree that there's independence. And as soon as I told him my opinion, you see, he started becoming very, very, like a defensive and looking dismissive. And he was going to say, as soon as you said that to me, I could see the conversation was going in the direction where as soon as I've explained to him that there's no impartiality, that he was going to say that justifies us not taking this matter further. And then I said to him, that's just my opinion. You can't discriminate against me or against my opinion. But bottom line is that you can see that they're all, this Jake guy, Sean Jeffries, they all come across as very, very amateurs. They come like, they don't know what they're doing. They're just like, basically like children in a kindergarten, play acting, pretending to do something, pretending to be someone. They don't know what they're doing really, do they? I mean, it just seems to me that none of them know what they're doing. They're just basically putting up a facade that they are professionals, they're in a position of authority, they are, doing their jobs, they're following the rules, they're not doing any of it. They're just basically lackadaisical, do not know what they're doing, do not know their arse from their elbow. They're just basically making stuff up, telling me Jackanory stories in order to convince me that they are doing their jobs properly. And clearly they're not. So obviously I think after 2 hours of conversing with me, he was quite exhausted and he just wanted to basically have this matter escalated. So yeah, I'll escalate it to the first tier complaint, second tier complaint. These are service complaints regarding now Sean Jeffries and also the Jake Osei-Tutu of the way he's investigated the matter. I'm raising this as a complaint because not only has a resolution not been released, this Jake Osei-Tutu is not done his job properly. He's basically wasted my time. Basically they don't know what they're doing. It just seems so incompetent. They just come across as very, very incompetent buffoons that are, just put to play acting to be professionals. None of them are knowing what they're doing, and they cannot. It just seems that they're just blagging it. It just quite clearly, can you not hear from the conversations that we've had that he does not know what he's doing? You're supposed to tell me that he's supposed to get me back in 10 days. He didn't. I emailed him. Then he starts trying to get some more time, saying, oh, actually, I'm going to arrange a call for you first. I said, no, we arranged that you were going to write out to me within 10 days and then have a follow-up call. He did not do that. Then he tried to play act that. Then I said he wanted 2 extra days. I gave him 2 extra days. He still failed. And then eventually he just whitewashed everything. So basically, all the 8 points he just whitewashed, wasted my time and resources. And if it wasn't for the fact that I'm recording this, it would be a waste of my time and resources in order to deal with the legal ombudsman, because they just basically just put up there to show people. They're just showpieces to show people that you can complain to the ombudsman. The ombudsman's not really going to do anything, because the ombudsman knows that this is dead serious. My mother's been murdered. And there's clear evidence to support the allegation that my mother's been murdered. And the reason that they don't want to uphold my complaints is because if they uphold my complaints, then that clearly is further justification or reasons for my allegations being true. So they don't want to support me in that. So that quite clearly he's been tasked, or the ombudsman particularly has been tasked to basically whitewash this, and no doubt they are going to whitewash it. But let's continue with complaining and raising these issues up with them. I've spent the last 2.5 hours talking to this guy on the phone, and as you can see, he's been very evasive, trying to give me, tell me what's supposed to be happening, what they ought to be doing, which they're not doing, which they're failing upon. Simple answer. It's just a very simple answer I wanted from him, or from Sean Jeffries, which both of them are not providing me with. What is the reason for the justification to escalate this to the ombudsman to have the case dismissed on grounds that there is no reasonable prospect of it succeeding, considering you got no evidence? You didn't review any evidence. My opinions don't count. The complexity don't count. So what is the reason? None of those are reasons. All right, they're not giving me a reason. And they said she wrote to you, she spoke to you, just like this guy. This guy's being evasive. He didn't give me an answer, did he? So I put him on pan and said, no, you're going to give me a reason why the Sean Jeffries has felt it necessary to escalate this matter to the ombudsman, because preemptively, when there's no justifiable reason, there's justifications. You've justified it by referencing it to your schedule 5.7, but you're not giving me the reason. What exactly have I done? And I should not be in the dark. It's not a secret. I do not need to wait for the ombudsman to whitewash this. They've obviously got somebody on their hands who's not going to take crap from them and going to be given a little run around, and so therefore they can't fool me like they're fooling everybody else. And I've got the time and patience to drill them down as I have been doing. So yeah, I just wanted to keep this recording. Now this is going to be, I think, something like 2.5 hours now I spent on this phone call. Waste of my time.